That's fine. That's good. I'll take that out now. All right, so I've made some changes here in the studio since the last time you were here.
Do tell.
I'm gonna take these phones off for a second.
Do tell.
So what I did was I kind of like changed some of the lines going from the patch bay to the mixer, and I've now got it so that the interface has 4 inputs and 4 outputs. So the 4 inputs are tapped into my subgroups 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
And then my 4 outputs are going as channels into the mixer. So I have to use, which sucks, 2 faders for my typical stereo. Just like I'm like want to listen to YouTube, but usually you only have to listen to one channel. Yeah. It's like you're going to get it's not going to be all Beatles on you. So like I do that regularly, but then I do a lot of routing now in like say when I'm in Ableton recording. So I want to send something to reamp it and throw it through an effect on outboard gear. I can send it. It comes out of this channel. I've got an insert where I'm using the pedal on the insert, but then I've got 4 auxiliary sends, and then I've got my stereo routing, and that's how like I have the pedal going in on the insert. Say I have like a guitar, right? Mm-hmm. And I panned it all the way to the left channel, and I'm like, okay, so now I want to put another one of these guitars in the right channel, but like copying and pasting and then just panning the other channel, it's not going to be cool. So it's like, so I took and sent that first guitar that's been panned all the way to the left out to this channel, and now I have all this like analog routing. And so I'm just using the insert, which is just a little patch point for the signal before it hits the rest of this to route, out and back in. And so that's the out and in on the pedal. Use the overdrive, just sauce it up just enough. And then down here, I send it to a subgroup 1 and 2 and just put up 1. And 1 is this first channel, the first input on the interface. Mm-hmm. And then I just arm a track for recording, make it input 1, and then it I just hit play. And now that guitar, I don't hear it playing through here because it's being sent out through this channel, which is now running through here. And then I monitor it using the mixer. But so then it's going back into the computer and being recorded. And because I'm not monitoring through here, I don't have little to no latency. So I don't have to nudge anything. And then I just the new thing I've recorded, I pan that all the way to the right and just get a really cool stereo sound out of a guitar strum or something. But anyway, that's what I use that for. But then also with the 4 channels broke out right here, the direct outputs on this mixer are going up to the patch bay, so I can, whatever's happening here, for instance, I can route all my stuff so all the drums go to output 1, bass goes to output 2, and then break it down into drums, bass, guitars, vocals, and lay it onto a 4-track cassette recorder is the 4 inputs, and bounce it to tape or a digital recorder or something. And then also with playbacks, it can be I'm sitting here and I'm pulling these faders up, I'm like, let me just solo the vocals right now and get this, and that I can use it like that. And it's not it's not like a MIDI or a USB connection. It's just the audio going from out and in of the Scarlett interface. So that's been a big thing. That saved me a lot of patching up here. So I changed this bottom row of patches in the patch bay. I've got them normaled, so they make connections without having stuff patched in them, which are for example, I have my stereo effects mixer being patched to my 3rd stereo return on here, which is a new thing I started using on mixers, the stereo returns and stuff. But with that happening, that's a balanced connection. Instead of having to just have the wires going from here to here, and it's going to stay like that usually, I can have it normaled where now the way that these jacks work is the stuff that's plugged in on the back just goes down to the bottom. And so I have it sort of connected that way. But then that gives me the ability to route that at any point in time if I want to send that differently. But yeah, so now I'm doing this where I'm okay, so I've got my stereo effects set up so I can kind of send things to the delay and then send the delay to the reverb, right? And just really just put layers of character onto just a basic, vocal delay or drum delay, and then be able to record those stereo into the computer. So I'm not really using I do use some of them, but like I'm just like not using very much of the, the soft Ableton's like stock plugins for like reverb and delay. They work or whatever,
You're
but it's
bogging
like
it down.
it just I mean it can be pretty like easy just to start loading stuff up. What I kind of like still like enjoy indulging in is just like compressor dynamic stuff. Like I'll be like I've really been interested in compressors in this new wave of like stuff where like compressors are just like really fun to play with, and there's just so much nuance you can have. And I hated them at first because I didn't get it. I had like a PV2 channel, and that thing I got it from Lynx, and I like tried using it and just never made anything better. I didn't know what I was doing, didn't understand it. So eventually I remember trading in, and I got that Samson mixer. I got the Aural Exciter, that silver face, and I think I got something else. I can't remember, but like I traded some stuff. It was with you. We were at golly, I don't remember what was the place I got that one mixer where it was like
down in Gaithersburg, right?
Yeah,
Down in
yeah.
Gaithersburg.
That sounds just about right.
That
yeah.
place. Gaithersburg. That place. Sure. Haven't been there in a minute.
Jesus, I'm all tangled up.
Good people.
Okay, so here, check this out. I got this at
What the
Black Rose.
heck?
Maniac.
Yeah, what the heck is this?
So I got because for me, I've got my brother. Like I have like a drop
yeah,
in
the
my head of
Maniac.
just hearing him
Sure.
say that. But I love the
That's
packaging.
that's
you've got,
crazy.
Look, it's called Maniac, but here's the name of the box, and they're two different
It's two
typefaces.
completely different typefaces.
I like that. Like I would
Yeah.
almost just feel like, oh no, you
Whoa.
needed to be like solidarity in your design. Like the packaging, like the lettering on your
If you don't have
item would
if
be
you
the
don't-
same as the box.
Exactly.
but
If you don't have like
they broke the rule.
if you don't have like a mascot, or if you don't have anything like that, like draws the attention, I feel like you gotta get that right.
Yeah.
I guess that's why we don't know Maniac.
Well, here's the thing. I like everything they got. That Maniac lettering. I mean, that's cool. I
mean,
feel
both
like
of
that's,
them are cool.
Yeah, yeah. And then that's like that computer '80s font or whatever.
This is like early like thrash metal.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It makes me think like Slayer. Or
Yeah.
Something. So yeah,
Is all it is just the one piece here?
yeah, that's it. And it's got the battery cover, and it didn't have batteries in it.
The fiendishly clever paranoid
Yeah,
electronic.
if you read some of the stuff, I'll read it right back. I am Maniac. My heart, if I have one, is a microcomputer. I convey intelligence, visibly and audibly. 2 to 4 players match wits against my fiendishly clever, infallible computer brain. Beware! I am tricky, and I am, above all, a sore loser. If you start to score too high, I become paranoid and increase the level of difficulty. Do you dare challenge me?
Holy crap.
Wait, it says, do you dare challenge me in blue in the bottom, and it's got 2 exclamation points, but that sounds like a question.
Oh yeah. It is a statement of, do you dare challenge me?
Yeah, they're like telling you. Like, I guess
Toys
so.
R Us?
Yeah, the Toys R Us sticker on there.
This is great.
So it worked. I didn't have 4 C batteries, but I just
C batteries.
Yeah, so it's like
C batteries.
4 C batteries in series. So it's 1.5 times 4, so it's like 6 volts. I hooked it up to my bench power supply, and it worked. But it was like, this game sucks. Like, it just beeps, and it's so confusing. And I went and like kind of like read the literature to understand it better, and it was like, oh, like, but unless you know what's going on, it's super minimal with the interaction. It's basically just these 4 pads, and it just all it's doing is beeping, and it just goes on its own. But I'm like, honestly, I'm not interested in the aspects of it being entertaining.
Whatever the game is.
I just wanted to like hack
wanted
it,
to own it.
and maybe get some of the sounds, because it says it like emits like random melodies. I was like, oh yeah, like talk. Let me hear the random melodies you're gonna be spitting out. Like, what kind of weird sounds could you get? And then looking at the year of it, like it's like 79, I think. I'm like, oh, dude, this is like total speak and spell. That like computer voice. I'm like, I don't know what to expect, but for $3, I felt it was worth it.
It's that box is worth $3 all day.
But like the LED and everything thing works in it, so I was like, score. But it's also just some junk laying around,
What's with this little cutout?
I don't know.
They just cut out both sides just so whoever assembling it just couldn't get it wrong.
We give you a choice in your assembly process.
You can't screw this one up. Oh, I'm putting this the wrong way. Damn, that's wild.
Yeah, so
It's worth $3 for that.
yeah.
My heart, if I have one,
I know, it's
is a microcomputer.
so cryptic. I'm like, this is obviously like it's the ages for it. It says Yeah, how many people
I convey
can play.
intelligence visibly and audibly. Like it feels like it's written by a computer from 1979. It's wild. I am tricky, and I am, above all, a sore loser. If you start to score too high, I become paranoid and increase the level of difficulty. Do you dare challenge me? Awesome.
Man. Yeah, I'm going to try to get the audio off of it and try to like.
It's a
use
shame it
and
doesn't like
sample it.
do anything but beeps and boops.
Yeah, just beeps and boops. Like you're supposed to, like it does like little games where it's like, okay, it'll
Like Simon?
It'll play a. So you're supposed to understand what the differences in these games to really actually be able to do them, but they're pretty simple. Where
Wait,
it's
was
like,
there like a button? I didn't even.
yeah, there's
like,
Maniac things are actual like they called them paddles, and all it is just a button.
Oh,
like
you just hit it?
press it, yeah, and it's
So
like,
if it beeps twice, you just hit it twice. It's
No,
like just call and response.
it does other stuff like you're supposed to like say it makes a beep for a random amount of time, and then you have to the first like the person who's closest with judging how long that time was, like so like if the beep went beep, then the silence that happens after that, if you get the same length of silence, you hit the button, you wait that silence, is like trying to make the silence be the same length as the beep.
Okay.
So the person who, either comes in, if you come in too fast, the person who gets closest, I guess, to that duration. Like that's one of the games is like you push the button in a time after you hear a length of a sound, a tone, and the tones are, and then you're supposed to guess like, okay, I think that was like
that was
3 seconds, yeah.
That's wild. That's such a.
And it's doing it all through like a piezo like speaker, so
Yeah.
it just like kind of like after a while it just becomes jarring.
And it's the
'cause you're
same
just
like. Does the tone
what's going
change
on?
pitch at all, or is it always just a?
No, it does. It does change pitch and tone. Like it does. It does these melodies and stuff, and they seem like my brain's just going like, oh, is that random? Or like I'm trying to figure that out, but I haven't. I just confirmed it worked. I mean, it seemed like it worked.
Oh,
It's just
I'm real curious. About
you hit
that
the
thing.
buttons and it does something. You're like, I don't know if I did it right. It's changing, but like I don't even have to hit the buttons and it'll be changing.
I love it. Maniac.
So then I got,
At the end of the day, they're just like, we called it Maniac, man. Like if you can't figure it out,
dude,
we tried to warn you.
Did you see the year on the box? It said 79.
yeah.
So when do you think they were making it? 78? What do you think they were doing when they were making that? You think they're under the influence of any like substances? In 1978, they're like, we're gonna make money off of these game ideas we got. We just,
Yeah, I would like to know what
Jerry's into computers. Come on, we can put our minds together and make some money. fast."
Jerry's got a computer.
He's got one of them. He builds them kits.
What else? So it's like late 70s, 78. What other like? They didn't have any of those little like electronic. What I'm trying to think of like what would.
It was pretty basic back then. I mean, you're like speak and spell level quality. I mean, you had like Atari. Nintendo wasn't Nintendo yet.
But what else like?
Would you like anything? You have drink.
I am
You
a
have
drink.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to think of like So like that game isn't made by one of the big makers or something.
Yeah, that's another thing.
So,
So you
like-
don't see that like.
So I'm thinking that
Parker Brothers.
it's trying to like emulate something, and I'm trying to think of like what around the time would have been anything
Simon.
similar, like a Simon type game. But I don't know if it goes back that far.
It's like
does it?
Simon. I don't know. I feel like Simon's definitely 80s, but I don't know 79. I mean, it's one of the
79, that's in
cusp.
some rare air there, because that was really before the big like 80s.
I mean, I know I have like the
Toy
access
boom.
of the internet, the
Yeah,
internet
we could
at my
just look this
fingertips,
up,
but it's like
there's a part of it's like, no, let's live in the pre-internet
Yeah.
world where there's some mystery and you have to think about things for a little while.
yeah, there's like that's like another type of like addiction people can have is like the ability to satisfy their inquiries, or it's almost like because we can so easily satisfy it, sometimes you distract yourself so often just to solve stupid questions or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
What?
what was that actress's name in
Isn't
that
the world
movie
more
that
interesting
did that?
sometimes with just a little bit of mystery?
Yeah.
Wasn't it more fun to just go to school the next day and just like tell your friends about it and them to like bullshit to you and then you to go home and repeat that bullshit to your brother or whatever?
Yeah.
It was great. It was great. I saw a movie in theaters the other day. I saw Megan, M3gan. Have you seen this? It's like the
You saw it in theaters, you said?
yeah, I went to the theaters.
Holy smokes! No, I'm not even. That kind of doesn't even sound familiar, but
It's
a
like
little bit.
like Killer Doll, little girl Killer Doll. It's like all over the internet. Anyway, didn't like it.
Completely, I feel so silly because I'm like how it eludes me. I'm like, oh man, like I've been paying attention to movies more than ever
I'm
too.
going to say a bunch of words right now that are only going to make sense to like a certain percentage of people, and you're not one of those percentages,
Okay.
so don't worry about it. But it's literally like Allison Williams from the television show Girl is in a show about a murderous doll right now that is very TikTok. Like the little murderous doll has like a dance that has gone like famous on TikTok.
Oh.
It's like this. It's like that type of thing. It's like a horror movie that could only exist today. But it rips off a bunch of other horror movies, including like Child's Play, it's Murder Doll. Or that really, really good, this wasn't really a horror movie, but did you ever see a couple years ago that Ex Machina? That was like the AI gone wrong.
No.
It was
Ex Machina.
Yeah. I recommend that one. Awesome movie. If you want like a good version of what this Megan was trying to be, I think Ex Machina with Oscar Isaac.
I feel like I'd probably recognize like maybe
The artwork or something. Yeah, it can't be a decade old. I
the
bet you
name
it's like
sounds
I bet you it's
familiar,
like
but-
15. I bet you 2015, maybe 16. It could be 2012 at this point. I lost complete track of time. You could tell me a decade and I go, sure, anymore. But anyway,
Yeah, I hear that.
it's I think the better version of the dangers of AI and building a doll. This feels really the Megan movie, the one I saw in theaters the other night, really feels like cynical, written from the perspective of like a boomer generation about like the dangers of like Alexa is what it is. It's like the horror movie.
They're stealing
version of
all my
Alexa.
information.
Yeah, I mean, there is an Alexa type device that becomes sort of the bad guy also in the, not becomes the bad guy, but it's hinted to be part of a bad guy or a bigger thing maybe.
Knows all your weaknesses.
Yeah, but why did I even bring this up? I brought this up with a purpose. Because we were talking about the mystery of it all. And I feel like that movie would have been a better movie or like more interesting at a different time when you could just like go to school the next day and be like what I'm doing right now and describe
Yeah.
it. The movie I could describe to you is way better than the movie that I saw. Like the version that I could be like, no, she's like this doll and she goes sentient and she becomes super instead of like, Child's Play where like it's trying to kill the kid, this one becomes super protective of the kid. That's the twist on this one. And like, I don't know, it's a more interesting movie when you explain it. Then you see the movie, you're like, okay. All right. This feels...
Is there murdering going on?
Yeah, but it's like, there's like no earned deaths, if you will.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like that was my issue with the movie is I didn't like anybody in the movie. Like there was no likable characters. And then the couple of it was PG-13, by the way. It's like a PG-13 horror movie.
Oh wow, that changes how I would perceive how gory it would get. Then.
Yeah,
I mean,
so-
if it's rated for a young teenager,
That's what I'm saying.
then
It felt like
I don't need that stuff though. I mean, so if it's that's not.
no, I'm
that's
not recommending it.
I don't need the gore to make it older.
Oh,
person
you
rating.
mean that.
I
I was
mean,
gonna say,
I
I
just
don't-
mean like it could be a PG-13 and be like spooky horror movie, and I'm like, I'm still interested.
I think that can be true of horror movies. I don't know if this can be true for this
What's
type
a doll
of
like
horror
killing
movie.
people because it's like they're like it thinks like they're infringing on like its owner or whatever.
Yeah, it becomes like a
The girl. Or something.
yeah, it becomes like a relationship with the doll where they become like inseparable, and now the doll is just is jealous of the relationship that the mother has, and then jealous of anybody else that comes in, and then at one point she gets hurt by like a neighbor's dog, so she just kills the neighbor's dog, and like anything that is perceived to be some sort of like slight to this little girl becomes like execute with extreme prejudice.
She's like a German Shepherd or something.
Yes, yeah. In a strange way.
She's like a German Shepherd.
Imagine like a weird, like violent German Shepherd Furby type, like just sentient doll that you talk to and it learns your whatever.
Was Cujo? Was that German Shepherd or was that like one of them bigger dogs?
Like a Saint Bernard.
Yeah, Bernard.
I don't think it's a Beethoven, right?
I don't know. I visualized kind of like a rabid Beethoven though.
Yeah, maybe it was a Saint Bernard. It's been a minute since I've seen old Cujo.
like all trapped in a car.
Yeah, it's been a minute since I've seen
I
Cujo.
think Cujo. I feel like I may have mentioned this in one of these like recordings in the past, but like I'll bring it up again. Like I think it was third grade. I carried around Cujo, like Stephen King, like it was like a paperback and it
Oh,
was
yeah,
real
yeah,
thick.
yeah, yeah.
I remember like
I don't know
I've
if you
carried
told
that
me all
around
this,
with me, and
but
like
you've told me that story before.
third grade, like I'm like, this is what I want to be reading right now, but I tried to read, I'm like, it's not for me right now. Like I can't, but I just wanted it.
I was guilty of
I wanted
that.
to be reading that book.
I was guilty of that real young with The Hobbit. I like carried it around and I would like read it and go like, this doesn't, I want to like this so much. I would like open it up and I would like look at the maps because there was like maps drawn in it and stuff, and like
Page and a half into it, you're like, this is boring.
But and it was like, oh, these are like names that I don't know, so I'm having a hard time keeping track of
Yeah,
them.
like where are they at?
Yeah, like sometimes this may sound silly, but sometimes with stuff like that, like I need it just to be like Steve, Bob, and Greg, so I can visualize my own versions of those people or something. I always said that I probably watched the Godfather movies probably way too young. I was probably too young to watch them to even begin to comprehend them anyway.
Is that what it looks like when someone gets shot?
But that was like the names and stuff like that. There's so many characters and there's so many names and there's so many names that I'm not as super familiar with, super Italian names and stuff, that I don't think I really understood The Godfather until I was able to watch it with subtitles and really be able to like see the names and see who they were talking to kind of, and like be able to go like, oh, okay, this guy's this guy, this guy's this guy. And when they're talking about that guy off camera, when they're talking about him, most of the time I was just blank, where they would just be like, oh yeah, that's blah, blah, blah. And I couldn't even visualize who they meant. Oh yeah, it's Sonny. And I would just go, yeah, Sonny's one of them, I guess. And I didn't know. And it wasn't until later that I'm like, oh, okay, he's Sonny. And when they talk about him when he's not in there, I can now picture James Caan, and I know who you're talking about.
I feel like that can be like something that you would, if experiencing like being absent, like would be what you would like identify as being like, oh, this is what really makes a good movie is when like the interpretation of it is like just so natural, where you like just like follow along.
Yeah.
But yet you could like.
But that's nothing you can,
almost could like not even understand the language.
Yeah, but that's nothing you can quantify when you're young.
Yeah,
you don't
when you're young.
understand
Yeah,
that.
when you're a kid. Yeah, it's like it's a lot different.
But at
like
some
your
point,
palate's
at
not
some
as deep.
point, is like when your brain matures or whatever, you can watch a movie and like like you don't even think about that, but you're just like, oh, I know all these characters. Oh, I understand the relationship between. Oh, that's a. Like, this is gonna sound crazy, but sometimes it's like, is that guy like, are they dating or are they father-daughter? Like some things like that, and I'm just like, and then I start thinking about that. Like the better movies, it's just like, yeah, I know all of these relationships.
The better
this
movies
guy's
don't
this
make
person.
me confused
Yeah,
while
this
watching
person's
it.
this person. This person's this person.
You start like having like these moments where you're just going like, wait, are they on which side are they on? Or like it's like, what's going? Are they trying to help that person, or why were they acting like that? And then the movie ends, you're going like, that never got explained. You're going like, that movie had like at least like half a dozen of those moments where I was just going like, wait, what's going to happen? Like, what's going on? Where'd they come from?
I think that there's also, I think that there's a way that you can, we were like talking about like leaving the mystery of the internet or pre-internet world and the mystery of it all earlier. But I think that in a similar way, you can learn too much about movie making and the process that like always sort of ruins it, and there's an ability not to be able to like turn that off. You know, like Megan has to me, and I don't see it being mentioned in any of like even the negative reviews, but and I don't want to spoil anything, but it has something that I believe is sort of the the Chekhov's gun theory. You know, Chekhov's gun. Have you ever heard that term
That
in terms
sounds
of movies?
familiar.
If you show a gun in Act 1,
yeah, you have to. There has to be a reason.
you have to shoot it in Act
Yeah.
3. Is like the joking rule of it.
Yeah.
There's a Chekhov's gun in the first part of Megan that never comes back.
Yeah, hate that.
Yeah, and I just like that's what I'm saying about the like when you
Because you're like
these
waiting for
things-
that, you're going like, wait till they pull that gun back out. And
Yeah,
then you're like, that never got explained.
There's an element of that. It's not exactly a gun. In
Yeah,
this,
I
but
gotcha,
there,
yeah.
but there is, and I remember even like I said it to Jenna, who was with, like I was just like, oh, that'll be the thing. Like I even said it. I was just like, oh, that'll be the thing that helps in the third act be the thing that takes down this thing. This thing has a name. They even named it. Like they paid enough attention to this one element of this movie that they named it. So it was like, oh, they even gave it a name so you would remember it. It's not
Yeah.
even just a thing, right? And then like third act comes, and I was like, oh, okay, so this is gonna do, and it didn't happen, and I was like, oh, you fumbled it. you even didn't do that right.
They're trying to trick me, I think.
Yeah, but
They're
it
trying
didn't
to
even,
trick me.
But it didn't even feel like it was like this. It didn't even feel like they were like, hey, look over here, but we're actually gonna do this.
Yeah.
It really felt like they were like, hey, look over here, and then like an hour later into the movie, they're like, how do we end this? and they like forgot how they like got there. Maybe I'm not sure.
You start coming up with excuses for like reasons a movie was like didn't pan out, and you're just like, it's like, what if like something happened and like they had to like cut and edit it, and then it totally screwed up that element of the story where like, yeah, like it seemed like there was something going on, and then they never resolved something, and you're just like,
there might be a scene
like there's like unedited footage, and you're just going like, wow, like, you know, a good movie wouldn't even have me thinking like this right now. I'd just be like, wow, that was a great
that was
film.
good. Yeah, that makes sense.
I love that one part. Instead of just being like, I need to Google, like, or maybe they said something about it online. Like, why did he?
Well, I'll leave it. Like, I guess it's not like a spoiler in a way because I don't tell you what that happens at the end. But the first trial of this doll in the movie,
Like it's a trial, like
they do like
trial?
no, like it's like a toy. So they're like trying to like show their investors like this is the toys of the future, the AI toys. So like their first like, hey, show this off to some investor type trial type thing. They put a chip and they name this chip in wrong into this doll, and at some point she starts to like freak out and her head blows up. So I'm just like, oh, that chip. Like they even like they made a specific thing to show you that this chip is like this doll's kryptonite or whatever, and it blows up its head, and then the doll is done. So then later when it goes on a murderous rampage, you're just like, no, that chip. It's going to be that chip, right? They even show at one point like a version 1.0 of it that isn't quite doll-like, that's like more like combat-ready robot.
Yeah.
And they showed that in the first part. I was like, this was my theory. I'm just like, that big dumb robot is going to put the chip into the girl robot at the end and either sacrifice itself or blow it up or whatever. But I said, there you go. You have your like, you know, the kryptonite. They showed you the kryptonite of this thing in the first act. That'll be it. And it doesn't go that way. Like you never hear about that chip ever again or whatever. Like that whole like part, like it's no longer important.
It's like were they trying to trick me, or did things not go as they had planned?
Yeah, or is this just bad?
Just bad.
No, I don't even think it's that. I really think that the movie like was written like it felt like the point of the movie was to scare you about AI and Alexa and not to tell you any kind of story. It felt like they were just like, no, that's not the point. They're like, it's not the point about what the chip is. It's the point that the little that the AI thing goes nuts. That's the point. Right? So that's the part of me that goes like, oh, this is like cynical boomer stuff aimed at young people to sort of tell them of the dangers of the shit that they're doing right now. It feels like it almost felt like a very special episode. Like, you know what I mean? Like it had that vibe to me in a weird way that it was like, oh, okay, they're it felt like it was like a hour, like maybe an hour and a half long episode of like Black Mirror. But like not even a good one. Like not even one of the like more thought-provoking ones. Just more like, okay, yeah, you guys are afraid that the Chuckies will eventually be able to actually think for themselves. Because in the Chucky world, they didn't have that. That wasn't what they were thinking yet. In Chucky world, they were just like, oh no, it's got to be voodoo. We have to give it voodoo in order for it to have a brain.
Supernatural, unexplainable.
Yeah. We have to go that level. But in 2022, they're just like, no, it's just gonna be AI. We don't have to worry about none of that unbelievable voodoo nonsense. Yeah. We can just have it its own brain. Like that's the thing that like changed on it. And
gosh, it's so much easier now to come up with like these like ideas because of just the general population being able to assume like, oh yeah, it's possible.
Yeah, you just accept that. Yeah, you accept that.
Like,
and the special effects are good on it. The doll's creepy. There's a part where it like chases after somebody in the woods where it goes in like Exorcist crab walk thing, and you're just like, oh, okay. Like some of the horror stuff is all right, the visual stuff, but you know, just like I said, the point of it, I feel like was muddied. And now I feel crazy because it's like, last time I checked, it's like 94% on Rotten Tomatoes. And like, I went to work the other day and somebody I work with who's like a big horror movie fan, like first words out of their mouth was, oh, I hear you didn't like Megan. And I was like, oh, I hated it. But I weirdly feel like I'm alone. I weirdly feel like everybody was like, oh, you didn't think that it was funny? And I'm just like... Because it's got like a lot of like the movie. So the movie it got compared a lot to before I saw it. And the reason I wanted to see it, people kept saying that like, oh, it's not the trailer. It's not the movie you think it is from the trailer. It's not the Murder Doll movie. It's more satirical. And I was like, oh, okay. And they're like, it's more think like RoboCop. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, oh, okay. That's like the master of like satire. Like there are like 80% of people don't even understand that movie on that level. It's like so satirical, right? I was like, okay, sure. So I go into Megan, and the first thing you see in the movie is a fake commercial. And I'm just like, oh, okay, they are going the RoboCop. And then they never go back to that. No more fake commercials, no more, like... I just feel like the first third of the movie sets up something cooler than it gives you at all with that stuff. But Chucky had that too. Remember fake commercial with the Chucky dolls?
Yeah.
Like they'd hit those beats. I don't know.
I saw a YouTube short where it was like talking about in like RoboCop, like when that was in theaters, like some like dude like had like was like running from the cops and like went into a theater like half hide out and got all like into watching the movie and didn't even realize that like the cops had evacuated.
Oh, that he was just in there.
He was the only one left or something.
I mean, RoboCop's that good.
Yeah, and it was like the clip that they were showing over top. It was like almost like this automated computer voice. It wasn't like someone actually saying it or whatever.
Yeah.
And
YouTube's great for that.
yeah, I don't really understand that,
I hate
but it's
it.
like pretty common where I just accept
Yeah,
that. I was just
yep.
like, that's just something I guess that they have that does that.
Yep.
But
I guess they just must be the shy YouTuber that doesn't
Yeah,
want their voice
yeah.
to be. Yeah.
so like, but the clip that they were showing, I was going like, oh yeah, I want to watch RoboCop. I'm just going like, I could see that. Like if you got into the theater, the sound and just the craziness of certain things going on, all of a sudden you're going like, well,
The characters.
what next?
That movie has a bunch of characters that are all on 10. You know what I mean? Like everybody on that movie is on 10.
Yeah.
Great movie. Great. That like no wonder we're still comparing it to. That's a movie.
The face on the robot thing is like, as a child being little and when that came out and just the hype for it when it was like relatively
something-
new and just being like, it's freaking.
And think about the strange sensibility change. And I don't have an opinion on this, but there is an obvious sensibility change. If you consider RoboCop is like hard R. Actually, there's an X version. There's a version of RoboCop that I think the original like Criterion DVDs, like the only way you can get it for a while, they're probably you can get it anywhere. But for the longest time, the original Criterion Collection RoboCop DVD was the only way you get the X version for violence. Like it was like that violent, and it had a kids cartoon.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like that's the way things have changed.
Yeah.
Now they made the Megan movie for kids, just make it PG-13. Meh. Just cut
Yeah.
out the middleman. Like it's wild to like 35 years ago or whatever that it changed like that. There were what was the other one? There was a couple like the 80s had like adult properties that they just like gave kids versions to. You know, like Swamp Thing, stuff like that. That's got boobs in it in the first couple, you know what I mean? Like in that original Swamp Thing. Definitely not like a kid's movie. Yet there was a Swamp Thing TV show.
Another YouTube video, I didn't watch it, but the thumbnail, it was like something like along the lines of like, basically like that, like stuff from the certain, like a previous era that was like marketed towards kids, but yet at the same time had this like adult like element to it. And
Now
it seems absurd to like connect those points where they market it as like stuff for kids to buy, like dolls of.
Now it's wild because like nobody gives a shit about anything.
Yeah,
Kids say whatever, you can say whatever you want on TV and nobody cares anymore. You can just like, there's no, like, they've just bullied that type of censorship almost to the point of not mattering. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think anybody, LeBron James could be on there after a great game and just say, I had a fucking great game, fuck the other team, and nobody would really, it would just be mean, that you'd be celebrated the next day. Yeah. You know what I mean? By everybody. So like that type of stuff is like gone away, and yet they still tippy-toe around certain things like a PG-13 Megan. Is wild to me. I'm just like, no, you can just go full R with this because nobody cares anymore. Just go full the hard R with it.
Would you imagine that's just like their way of being able to get more in the door?
I mean,
putting
maybe
PG-13. So if they made we're not even going to get any teenagers then.
I don't even think it's that. I almost feel like they, without knowing this, I almost feel like they thought it was like a challenge. I think they maybe just, there are certain like filmmakers and studios and stuff that are just like, yeah, you can make that comedy, you know, all slapstick and gross and rated R, but let's do a PG-13 and really make the jokes stand for themselves, right? And there's something to be said about that, and that's cool. But this really felt like it was like, there's been a couple PG-13 horror movies in the last handful of years that have been popular. And I think that maybe it was just a challenge to get to that. Like, let's see if we can do that. But then it was just so random because then the little parts of gore that you actually saw, like they, you didn't see I don't think you see the dog die, right?
Oh man, I've been watching movies that have had dog parts about it. I'm just like, I gotta tell my friends about the ridiculousness of this scene where they have a dog, something's going on. It's just like this. I was watching Mr. Nanny with Hulk Hogan, and in the beginning of the movie, when there's like this like music montage where he's like riding his motorcycle, you know, they're setting the tone of his character.
Yeah.
And in the background, he's going along like it's like there, you know, there's like. It looks like it's some city culture on the edge of some bay or water, and he's riding on like the road that we're on the one side. It's like beach where people are like walking on the sidewalk. Anyway, you just see him cruising, and there's a dude in the background and just throwing a dog out into like the water, like a dog, like and dogs like flails,
What?
and you're just going like that guy just threw a dog in the background, and you're just like, and there was just no. It was so far off that it wasn't seemingly like as if it was supposed to be
Like noticed?
no like a humor of like his wild journey or anything. It was just like in
Like
the
a
background.
Pee-wee joke or something
Yeah,
where he
just
rides
like,
by or something.
Well, that guy just threw that like Pomeranian-sized dog in the air. I was like, what the hell?
Weird.
I watched Lost and Found with Randy last night. You know, that's with David Spade, late '90s. He like steals this girl's dog, pretends it's lost, so he can like.
Oh, yeah.
like,
I
go
remember
after
it.
it.
I've never seen it.
There's a lot of like dog like violence in that too. That's
I
like,
went to
you're
Land of the
throwing the
Lost.
dog around. You're just going like this. LOL.
I went to Land of the Lost when you said that. That like the dinosaur. I think Will Ferrell might have been in it.
Yeah, the Will Ferrell.
So like that's
yeah.
what I like when you said that and then you said David Spade, my brain short circuited
Lost
for a
and
second.
Found, yeah.
I was like, wait, what? David Spade was in there?
No, because I thought they didn't get found
Never seen that.
in like Land of the Lost, and they just stuck there. They just lived there forever. They're always trying to get out, but that was. Well, I'm thinking of the show.
Yeah, I remember the show more.
The show was like that show was awesome when I was a
Yeah.
kid because it seemed to be so rare. Like you'd just be like, oh, it's on right now.
Am I misremembering? Was that the dad from Step by Step?
Something like that.
Right?
And Chaka, like the Monkey Man boy thing.
Patrick Duffy?
Duffy? Yeah, Duffy was in that. Here's the vehicle. Well, here's some trivia. I don't know the answer though. What did they drive into the cracked open gorge or whatever in the
A
beginning?
Jeep Cherokee.
That's what I thought. It was
Right?
a Jeep Cherokee.
Just in my brain, that's right.
What?
I'm not gonna look it up.
Oh no, a canyon.
Yeah, I'm not gonna look it up. I'm right.
It's
It's a Jeep Cherokee, Grand Cherokee.
green, right?
Yeah, I do remember green.
It was like green.
Yep,
like,
I do remember
kind of like a
green.
hunter green.
Yep, I do remember a green Cherokee. We could be misremembering that together, but I that's what I wanted. Patrick Duffy.
Yeah.
it could be a Ford Bronco driven by some other TV dad.
Or a Ford Explorer or something.
It's weird though because I also think like in my
Blue,
head,
navy blue Ford Explorer, Eddie Bauer.
this is why I the Eddie Bauer edition. God. This is why I question my own like memory on the Land of the Lost TV show being Patrick Duffy because I also can picture like the blonde daughter from Step by Step, but like on Land of the Lost. I know that can't be right. They wouldn't have used two of the same actors, so that's why I start to question myself because I was like, well, I can't even picture the other people in Land of the Lost, and now I'm even questioning that. Remember the blonde daughter and the middle daughter, maybe
No, I
from
don't.
Step by Step.
I just remember the theme hella good.
The Step by Step theme song.
Side note, so like music, you know, like it's still recording. I have a couple more changes in the studio I didn't even go over, but
Sure.
like just saying step by step. I don't have this written down, and I'm not super excited, but just it makes me think like TV show themes, like practicing. So like I've been wanting to do covers with my new setup and like recording and stuff. And it's really fun picking things that are, you know, it's like different or something, you know, where it's like almost like you just trying to do a version that works for you with your skill set is like producing something that doesn't sound like anything like the original. So just trying to do a rendition of it, you yield something that's like sounds kind of, you know, it excites you because you're going like, there's no one else that has this version. You know, I've created like a really like dumbed down version of a familiar song, but it's not really a song that you would think of would be a typical cover though. So like theme songs, show songs,
like TV jingles.
yeah, TV jingles, so just sort of stuff like that. Like I've got like a couple different things that I've like accumulated that I'm like I really would like to do a version of it, but some of them are a little bit more beyond my skill sets and complexity with the music. It's almost like, well, if you can't pull the bass line off, that's like what drives that song. So it's like,
It's almost like those TV like jingles and theme song writers and stuff. Like it was like, they had such a short period to work with, so they like really gave it all they got.
Yeah, man,
So
there's a
sometimes that
golden
stuff can
era.
be yeah. So like they hit you.
Baseline's ridiculous.
Yeah,
for
so they
this.
hit you with the big hooks right away. You get nothing but hooks, but you also get like sometimes like instrumentation that feels like you're like, man, that Power Rangers guitar dude is like just shredding the entire time, and that X-Men guitar dude is just shredding the entire time. Like they have such a short period of time to like just do everything that they go hard for that 30 seconds to a minute.
That there, it's just such a like a honey hole of like education to take on like doing a cover where you're just going like okay the verse is like learning these things, and then I totally lost my train of thought. Holy shit, what was I saying?
Education.
Yeah,
covering,
cover. Well, you were saying something. I
something
think
about shredding.
the virtue was so yeah, like MIDI, right? So like some of the stuff, like I was saying, like oh I can't pull that bass line off, but now with a new change in the studio setup, like I'm a lot more like oh hell I could just write it in MIDI, you know, like do your best job on the keyboard and record that as MIDI notes, and then you know you can nudge and
do
correct
what I
the right
need,
notes, and as long as you can at least tab the original. Even if you can't play it with a real electric bass or play it on the piano, like
You can get it.
I can just
You can get
program
it.
it
It
and
can be there.
sequence it,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
I'll be like, oh, I'm totally fine
Do you
with
have
that.
do you have a list?
So I do, but like the last time I've accumulated on the phone, I got a paper one, but the phone has a more updated one that I wanted to share with friends to do maybe some collabs. But like shit, I jumped track again. Oh, so when you were here last and we recorded piano, it wasn't hooked up in a way where it was able to be synced with the recording on the computer, you know? So like doing an arpeggio or something, you know, it was like difficult because then it wouldn't, you know, it would like trail off. You know, it might start off, you know, because we could tap tempo it. But I went through and did a little bit of like new routing with the MIDI controlling. And so now, at that point, I didn't have the interface MIDI routed at all. But now I've got the computer recording interface MIDI routed in a way where I could do like I just described, where I'm like, okay, I'm feeling this out on the keyboard, and I just like hit it out, and I recorded just the notes, and then I can play, and I can put in a MIDI instrument in the program on that track, so those notes trigger that grand piano, but like I can also, it's sending those notes out through the MIDI interface and controlling those synths. So then I can just record it with that, and then when playing it back, and I can sit here, loop it in a preview.
Hit it. Yep.
And be like, oh, this one's the good effect, and it's playing the thing.
Yeah, that's good.
And then I can record those synthesizers, which are stereo outputs, and because they're like Romplers, the sounds are lush. They're making use of their stereo signal, so you've got like modulation and stuff. So I really wanted to be able to capture that stereo image, where before what I did was, because I didn't have a really quick method to record stereo without unplugging and doing some junk, I recorded it through the guitar amp, which I'm like, oh, that's gonna give it a cool sound, and that's fine. But like I also just feel like there's some sounds though that you kind of like. It would be nice to have the more lush version that doesn't have the hiss
still
of
have
a
the
guitar amp.
ability to just go through the amp though,
Yeah,
real easy?
that routing's still,
okay.
yeah, it's still set up super easy. But now I have the capability of, if I wanted just the clean grand piano off of the one, I can get or one of the pianos that the one has a lot more options of, or I just, those give me my sort of virtual instruments, so I can like, oh, I want a bass line, but I don't want to do it with an electric guitar, and you know that's where like that purple, the Planet Fat comes.
Planet
in.
Fat.
That's like the hip hop one. It's got a lot of bass options on there, a lot of drum packs.
It really stands out over there. It grabs your attention.
Yeah.
It's the only one that like grabs your attention on that level.
I feel like every studio setup needs to have something purple in it, because it just seems like every studio I've seen will have some purple gear in it, where you're just going like, oh, it's not the same purple thing that I have, but they've got a piece of purple gear. Which
Can you imagine Prince's studio?
Yeah, it's like such a not like the standard professional colors of like black.
Yeah, black or
Silver.
silver face. Yeah.
And you get like weird ones where like Line 6 does like, you know, like, because they have rack stuff too, and it'll be like, you know, the DL4 or whatever, but like a rack mount delay modeler, and it's like the green, you know, and you know, there's a lot of companies that have done colorful displays, but it's weird how dated they look too. You know, like that looks dated. That doesn't look like. That looks like it's like 1996. They're trying to get everybody like wanting to be like Dr. Dre.
It does look like 1996.
And it's like it honestly
I
like
mean, purple.
I did a little research, man. There's like videos that's like you'll see in the background like DJ Premier. You'll see it like all of a sudden you start looking for like gear, and because it's purple, it stands out, and it's one U, and you're just like looking at like they're talking. You're like looking in the rack, and you're going like,
and it's got
they got a Planet Fat in there,
and the Planet Fat also from a distance, even if you can't read it, yeah, you can just be like, yo, that purple thing with that white splotch right there, it's gotta be.
It's on an angle.
Yeah, it's gotta
like
be
a hand written
and then
font.
the knob.
Yeah, so it's just kind of
it's
like
gotta be a Planet Fat back
the yellow
there.
stripe in the front. It's like you can tell it is a blurry from a blurry
Especially
background.
if you're like watching like 90s footage when it's all like taped out and the backgrounds are pretty gauzy.
Yeah.
That's like my biggest thing that I noticed watching a lot of VHS tapes now after watching so much high
Can't
definition
zoom in on
for
the
years.
spine of that book.
Is that like I watch Mr. Mom and I'm just like, outside of the two main characters, I have no idea what's happening in this house. It's just like a blurry mess of
like
color.
The whole movie's a bouquet or whatever.
Yeah, just of like whoever's in the foreground I'm paying attention to, but if like I'm just like, I think there are books on the back. I think that's a shelf. It might just be a wall. Might be wallpaper. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then like you watch like a think piece on it on YouTube, and they use like some sort of like high def stream on it. And you're like, oh, that movie looks completely different.
Yeah, it's like.
What were the theme songs? I need to know this list now.
Okay, yeah. So let me pull the.
Because I'm like a connoisseur of TV theme songs, and
So yeah, I've got ones.
I'm a big fan.
My most recent collection. Of,
God, do you know which one I recently just went down? Just like a super appreciation for, just loving it. Man, when's the last time you listened to Night Court?
I can't even think of the theme song for that. I've watched it.
Dun, 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 dun.
Isn't it kind of like funky? Like it's got like Steve Gadd drumming or something.
It's got like the horns. It's real horny. It's good. It's got a lot of horns.
It's real horny.
It's real horny. The Night Court theme song, real horny.
It feels like it would do the exact opposite in the bedroom if you put on Night Court.
yeah.
You put on Night Court, it's like, I guess everyone's going to bed.
Yeah, I guess we're going to sleep now. Real good though.
I really that. Yeah, that's just an era where like they had like, oh, these are like studio grade musicians coming in and laying down all these real instruments to make a song.
And
an original.
It really gives a night vibe, and it doesn't have any words. It really does. Like those musicians were probably told, like this is Night Court. Like the point of the show is this is a court that operates overnight, right? So the vibe has to be sort of overnighty vibe, and there's something about the horns and the vibe about it. It's like, yeah, this is exactly Night Court. Like without even having like somebody singing like, this is court, but it's during night, not during day. You know what I mean? Like it's not even like that type of theme song. It's wordless, and it gives the vibe. Great.
I can vaguely hear it in my head.
Yeah, at some point bring it up. But
I've been seeing a lot of YouTube videos from different names and different levels of quality, but like Blank the Blank as an dark 80s TV sitcom, or as an 80s TV sitcom. A lot of the something as an 80s, and then it's either dark comedy, or just 80s sitcom.
Okay.
And it takes like, it's like this, I think it's almost like, I don't know what the process is, but it's almost like as if like a lot of people are making them and they're utilizing like maybe some sort of software that's newer and trending, and they're taking and plugging in like these elements, and it would be like, oh, if like it's taking things that were never in that era, and making them look like that, and making like a lot of cartoons being like, if this cartoon was an 80s sitcom and you're watching it, it's like it looks like stills from like they're doing like an intro to this it looks like the show, like say Family Guy, and they're doing the intro or whatever, but it's like AI, and it's like real people looking.
Oh, like, is that what that is?
I've been seeing a bunch of different ones.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen.
There's different levels of quality. Some of them
yeah.
suck. Some of them are like freaking like kind of just like disturbing, and you're just going like, bring it on, man. This AI art stuff is just like, it's like people. It's like I'm just sort of like, Hey, we're in a whole nother world right now where you can just like fake these things. Dude, there was this one where I watched it and I thought it was real, and I was like, I got real deep faked or whatever, where it was like the comedian guy like Theo Von. I saw one, I think it was like when I was still using Instagram, like one of the shorts or stories or something where it was like him with long hair, and I was like, whoa, someone found this clip of this long-haired like guy with like a bandana kind of holding it down, and he's talking about like this like protecting a woman, and like, you know, he's like smash smash, and it was like that's just so crazy, and I'm like, wow, man, it really blew my mind. And then like I started seeing clips of this sort of similar image of this like dude, but you know, it just seemed familiar to me, and then I really like paid attention. I was like, what is this? And I was like, no, the thing that I saw that was like this was, it had Theo Von's face on it, but it wasn't that. Oh, that wasn't actually a video of a person that looked like him. It was like someone just deep faked it. You know, just going like, oh, and like that guy's famous because he like hatcheted up some old man and stuff. It was like the Hatchet Hitchhiker or whatever. But like, yeah, I was like a little like, I was really like kind of like shook by the fact that I was like, why don't I remember knowing that that wasn't real? Like, why do I feel like I thought that was the real?
It's coming.
I was just like, fuck.
Nope, it's coming. It's here.
So, it's like in some ways though, it's like, well, it's pretty entertaining as it's coming. So it's like,
sure, there's an element. Lil Yachty.
well, if Beavis and Butthead is a live action show, you're like, just like, they do kind of look real.
They do kind of look real. Lil Yachty put out a record today that has AI artwork on it. I think they're considering it like the first major release to have AI as the artist. Say what you will about it. I see both sides of the argument.
Yeah.
There's a part of it that's like, yeah, it's a cool new tool and stuff like that. And then the other, like, yeah, but it did take one paycheck off of one real artist's.
But I mean, isn't it almost,
okay.
Doesn't it kind of create more value for like the niche of it not being, if it's not AI created in a way? Like,
in a sense.
It's almost like a new genre.
In a sense. But
where like, there's still going to be like, hey, you know what? A lot of people might jump and totally just be fine with that. But it's also like, there's still going to feel like maybe it'll just become niche or something. But the value of.
It could just become.
Oh, this is made
art.
like a human. Human made this one.
Yeah.
know?
Is that the future we want to live in? Where we're like,
you're just going like,
that is some straight RoboCop like.
Pop music is all AI, and it's like underground is just like, oh, you play like a real instrument,
Yeah.
you know? It's like you like play music. And It's
Yeah.
like that's so rock and
Wait,
roll.
you drew that with like a pencil in your hand?
Wow, that's so antique.
Yeah. God, it'll just become like physical media.
Your basic creative skills will become immensely valuable, and you'll just make a living off of like, you know, making postcards.
Yeah.
So I got some cover songs. Matlock.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I've heard that a bunch of times because I had a Matlock phase.
Sure.
And
And if you stayed home during.
yeah, I watched a lot of Matlock.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, and it's like a little bit from my childhood. So I've got like a lifelong ingrained like I don't even know if I really like the song, but in one sense it would be like, can I even achieve something that can resemble that? Because that's not something I would write a song that would sound like. So like the bass and the horns, like I wouldn't have horns. I wouldn't try to do like, you know, a MIDI thing. I would just like, I'm gonna do like power chords, you know. But like that's all right. MASH, all right. Are you familiar with this song?
Yeah.
Did you know the name of the original song or that song?
It's like
Suicide.
Suicide is painless, perhaps.
Yeah, there are lyrics to it that in like the movie you hear the lyrics, and the lyrics sound like they were written by like a 14-year-old because they were. And it was like the son of like someone.
They sound like they were written by a 14-year-old because they were.
and like when you listen to them, but they're like, dude, you're going like, I wish I was writing lyrics like that good at 14.
God, I wish I wrote the lyrics that good at 38.
Yeah, and it's like you like.
I wish I came up with the title "Suicide is Painless" and it not feel like so cheesy or on the nose.
It's like when you listen to it, it's sort of cringy because it kind of is, but it's still actually deeper than you're going like. But I gotta hand it to him because he pulled it off. But anyway, like the song is pretty stark, and you're just going like, wow, what a weight! This is so much more drearier. It's like, but
and that one's a song that's based on a melody.
Yeah,
you just get the melody right. Anything that's around it can be fudged or experimented with, but that melody, it gives you such a solid melody, and it's I was gonna say a vocal free melody,
Yeah.
but there are lyrics. But
Yeah, you could-
nobody knows the lyrics.
and
There's
you-
lyrics to all of those. You know,
You
like
could do the lyrics, but just as an instrumental, it would be fun to like even try to achieve like like some resemblant like cover of it, where it's like it'd be interesting to understand like what those chords or the way they move around to get the, because it's such a moody.
Yeah.
Themes are typically very moody, it's like, so the mood that's conveyed in that, it's like.
And that mood-
It's like repellent for anyone under the age of a
yeah, I was
certain.
gonna say, and that mood was I don't want to watch this.
Yeah,
when
it's
I
like-
was a kid, I had no interest in any of those.
Drab olive green and like
Yup.
depressing music.
Yup.
You're like, ew, change the channel.
Depressing music, and a like bygone era.
Yeah.
No thanks.
Who wants to watch TV about old war?
Do I
It's like,
recognize
what?
any of these or any of these pet detectives? No. Then I don't care.
So yeah, and I had to turn on my life for that because I got really into MASH for a while. And then,
But it's a great theme song. Like, I
Yeah.
can appreciate it now.
yeah, it's just got like a vibe. Perry Mason. So I had a Perry Mason kick because
Yeah,
I
I know
actually
that.
came one before Matlock. So I just
Yeah. I connect the two.
And
Yep.
so I watch a lot of Perry Mason, but it's just like another honey hole of just like
know if I can-
entertainment from another era. It's like mid 20th century, and it's just so fun to get immersed into
I
something
can like
like that.
see it, but I can't hear it in my head. You have to play all these later.
Let me think if I can hum a few bars because I almost feel like in my head like it's
I
a
keep
test.
going back to the Matlock one.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have Matlock in my head that I can't hear.
Ba-na-na-na.
Oh yeah. Yep.
It's and like it's like another thing where like I'd like to try to get some understanding of like the movement of the chords, the notes, etc. because of just how moody that is.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was actually the end of that was like the ones I had written down. I have other themes probably too that could suffice. I mean, honestly, it feels like it would just be like a way to just jumpstart a project where you're just going like try to do a cover of set your limitations. I mean, what decade, what era, what TV show, and it'd be probably like fun just to just pick something. There's a bunch of shit to choose from. Super familiar with everything from 2000s
From
earlier.
the history of TV, really.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
even-
there's even shows you don't know. Like I can't tell you right now the plot of one episode of Taxi, but I know the theme song.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's
I
a
know
good-
that theme song.
That's very
That's also in the
jazzy.
same vein as some of yours
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
The Taxi theme song, man.
That's got like it's like them like quality studio musicians in the jazz. That's like CTI kind of like label. They
what
had some real
else?
jazzy jazz.
I'm trying to think like others. Like there are so many like classic theme songs where I know the theme song like the back of my hand, but I'm like I couldn't tell you the third character on that show's first name. You know what I mean? Like outside of Laverne and Shirley, I would struggle to come up with a character name.
Yeah.
But I know the theme song.
Yeah. Remember Anal Cunt did like what Three's Company?
Yeah, Three's Company, I think.
I feel like they had like another one, but like the Three's Company cover, like that's probably like a pretty early influence for me thinking how
TV theme song.
yeah TV
cover.
theme songs were like covering it, and it just is like whoa.
What about a band that was like theme song covers? Oh, that whole everybody has a shtick. Is there a band that their whole shtick is just TV theme songs? Like you could flesh them out and do the full on "I'll Be There for You," so you can play a 3-4 minute long song, or there are a couple other like '90s ones that had like the Bodines, right? "Closer to Free" was like
Yeah,
the theme
yeah.
song, where you could play like the full 3-minute version of a song and then just have it peppered in with like just the minute long bangers.
So would the bands then have to be like would they have to make these variety of it's like they have set instruments, right? Drums, guitar, bass, some singing, keyboard, and then like how do they make all those covers then have the sound of that band?
So
then?
I like
or
in
do
a
they
dream
try to
world,
be like we need to have the horns on this one?
yeah, in a dream world scenario, like if I was building this for real, I would want guitar, bass, drums, right? And then keyboard, like synthesize, like dude that does all that. Just a keys guy that is great with that stuff, that can kind of just be the guy on like that. And then one of those people be a female that can sing. So you have a guy singer, you want a guy singer, you want a girl singer, and you want somebody good with keyboards. That's like, I think like those three things are like the key to that band, to really have the full on, like try to like where any theme song wouldn't be off the table if you just had those guys, and then you could flesh out the rest of the band with whatever you need.
I think with like having the also combining the male female like the duo kind of vocals too, I feel like it's so much more of a broader appeal too. Like
Sure.
you just get like it's like you just be like, oh look, there's a man and a woman singing together right now. You're just going like, oh, I know this song.
Or a theme song like the Friends theme song. It literally doesn't matter who's singing it. It could be just a girl. Like they just want to hear the claps.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, they just want to do that. They can participate, and they're songs that like you would just instantly know. They're just like everybody would just instantly know the song, probably know all the words. It would be a hit. Even a bastardized version of that would be fun. A 3-piece band that just figured out using guitar, bass, and drums well enough how to play.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's like sort of like I kind of get excited thinking about how raw and simple can you boil down these versions of songs where like it's almost like I just keep thinking about like if you were trying to be like the Ramones or something where you're going like it's
Where
about
everything
like
just becomes a Ramones song.
yeah, like
through
you
the
kind
Ramones filter.
you kind of like you kind of attack it in a way where you're going like I'm not trying to impress anybody with musicianship here. I'm just trying to have fun. And like for me, the fun is like nailing it so it sounds like it, but like if you're trying to make it like it'd be like really good at drawing, but you're just really good at drawing photorealistic images, and someone's like, yeah, you just like take a picture then, you know. So it's like more interesting when there's something that is more like characterful about it, you know, like that makes it different. So it's like, you know, like if you're doing an exact rendition of that song, it's like you got to be really good to pull it off. But if you're just doing like power chords, you can just go in there and
just have a
like
bar version of it would be
fun. Yeah,
that's the version I would really like to do, like the bar version. We went and saw a like '90s cover band, like maybe in December down at Ram's Head, and it was like a whole show, and they did just '90s covers, and it was guitar, bass, drums. Do they have a DJ? Keyboard player, DJ? They had like a dude. Yeah, like they had a dude that was just back behind a bunch of stuff that had everything, right? And then a girl singer. And then they did like boy bands and like girl group stuff, but the guy just sang all the parts and the girl just sang all the girl parts. You know what I mean? Like they did like Wannabe by Spice Girls, but it wasn't 5 Spice Girls. She just did every part. She just sang like the song, and then they did I Want It My Way or I Want It That Way, whatever the Backstreet Boys song is. Can't think of it.
Oh my gosh.
But like they did like a rock or like a band version of that where the guy just sang it like it was like a guy's song, and everyone loved it. Not one person in that place was like wanting to hear 5 voices.
Dude, this is like a topic of philosophy. This is almost like what I want to capture in these things is like almost like I really like the idea of like just like the philosophy of this stuff. It's like so a cover band, right? Like I feel like I could just fucking riff for a while on this. Like the whole ethics of like being a musician. That it's like I've like my whole sort of like experience has like been about like making your own thing, right? You know, so it's like the idea of being a cover band. You almost just kind of feel like it rides a fine line between like you're really proud of it, or you almost kind of feel like you're selling out, just like doing covers because you know you can get gigs easy and get paid. You know, and I grew up with Harry, with the stepdad being in the band that does that, and I just saw that world.
Cover band.
Yeah, where they were every weekend, and like you know you're coming with like, all his cash, you know, and it's like. You're playing your instruments. You're hanging out with your friends. You're going playing music. It's hard to.
And
see
I
this being a
guarantee
bad
Harry
thing.
made more money in 5 years than I made in 10 years in an original rock band.
Dude, they would clean up like 4-digit like payouts for like 3, 4. You know, and I learned like, oh wow, well the bigger the band, then the less each one of them makes, and they benefit when like, oh well this show's only.
But
gonna
I
be
bet
a 4-piece,
I bet you if we ever hit 4 digits as a payday for any of those over a 10-year span, it was less than this handful.
Weekends, like almost like multiple times a month, racking in hundreds of dollars.
I got no hate for it. And at the end of the day, being in a cover band that is doing stuff and is playing is better than the alternative of not doing anything.
Well, in there like vibes that are kind of like, I mean, it doesn't, do you think there's like exists like amongst a lot of people who are probably like, you know, active with instruments and playing bands, like is there, I mean, they're in like a vibe about like not doing covers or something.
So
sometimes I get the vibe where it's almost like not cool to be doing covers, but I'm like, I don't know. I just
No,
I'm coming around to doing it more. It's fun.
Yeah, I got lots of thoughts on this because I've been doing this for so long. Is that I'm not joking. Again, over more than a decade of playing in a band, the covers hit harder.
Yeah, I mean,
every time
people were going to get excited when they recognized the song. And
we played the was it Running Down a Dream? Tom Petty.
Yeah, people will get all excited.
The minute they heard that, like for the 45 minutes we were playing before, we were seeing sides of heads, and then all of a sudden we're seeing dancing feet, man. And it was like bringing that out. Like I was just about to say, the people that talk shit about playing in a cover band aren't in a crowded bar, and hear a song that they recognize. They're not those people. And I've been both sides. Like, anytime I'm in... God, if I go anywhere to a bar right now, I don't want to hear them yammering on with their original music. That's not why I'm there. If I want original music, I'm seeking it out. I'm looking up my favorite bands, and I'm going to see them or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if the point is to go out and drink and have a good time, like, to have the 3D version of it, to have the fully check all the boxes, I need to hear tunes I like.
Yeah.
And I know.
I think it's exciting for like an audience to hear a cover because of they know what to expect, but they don't know what's going to be coming because it's not the same
not the
delivery.
one. Yeah.
So it's like you could screw it up, and there's like this anticipation. It's like going to like see a car race or something where you're like, a lot of people are there to see what nobody really wants to have happen though.
Yeah.
And so like, almost with going and seeing live music, there's that element of chance and risk.
That you could end up puddle of mudding yourself.
They could go up there and totally just like ruin the song, and everyone just being like,
yeah. And then you'd be on the internet puddle of mud style with the Nirvana cover.
Oh yeah, that was
where you're infamous now forever because of your bad cover song.
Yeah.
Because of the risk.
Yeah, it's very, and I think
a beloved song.
That's what gets people fired up, man. Is when they recognize there's risk involved, they're like, their brains turn on like almost like instinctually.
It becomes almost it becomes this, like, you hear
oh shit, he's doing Tom Petty.
Yeah.
Like, we're from and
then at least for me, I just go, I like tune in and I just go, okay, how are they gonna do this? Let's see how they do this. Like not in any way of like a challenge or anything, where I'm just like, okay, they got the guitar part right. They got that part. Like, I know what this is. Now let's follow as this unfolds.
Wait,
okay, the vocal.
Line. Oh man, he just just the bait. You start.
You start like okay, and then you hear the vocal, and you're just like, you start to sing ahead. Mm-hmm. At least I do. I already I hear their voice. I hear how it fits the song, and then I instantly go to the chorus part like quickly, using a snippet of their voice.
AI in my brain.
Yeah, and I'm just like, oh no, wait, this chorus goes real big. But not the Tom Petty song. You know what I mean? It's just running down a dream. Like, he kind of sings in the same cadence the entire time or whatever. So it's not like there's no big surprise there where you're just like, oh, is he going to be able to hit that?
Yeah.
Is he going to be able to do that chorus where it's, Whitney Houston finally hits the I Will Always Love You, which he's been holding on to for, you know what I mean? Like, so I do that where I fast forward in my brain just to know if the band is going to be able to do it. And if I can't figure that out, that's when it's exciting. When I'm just like, oh, I don't know if this guy... Okay, let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, there it is. Awesome. Good on you. That's when you get I think that's when you get the cheers. That's when you get it's just hey, I feel like doubted you. Yeah. You hit it.
You're in my corner, pal.
Yeah, you made me proud by doing it right. I expected something. I wasn't sure what I was expecting, and you delivered.
So another cover I had was it's been on the list for a while, but Misfits' Night of the Living Dead. And so with that, the chorus is like, come on, I mean, I'm not Glenn Danzig or whatever. I'm not gonna be like, whoa, but that's kind of I feel like that would be what you're saying is almost it's you can pull something off for one part of the song, but then there's another part of the song that's usually separates the men from the boys or whatever.
Sure.
And it's realizing say that the Fleetwood Mac cover, right?
Uh-huh.
I wanted to just, can I even sing like this? And I tried singing. It was funny. There's different parts are different than others because you're this singer who's actually talented with singing, they really belt it out for this particular part of the song that might repeat the chorus. And it's when you get to that part, you really realize just how amateur and you're just going wow, that's really hard. I don't think I can do that. You're just wow, this is. So that's why I think it's fun about covers, is because then it's like you either just like don't do it, or you make your own way, or find something close, and it's like. For me, and most of the time, it's not a success. But
and it's the reverse engineer of it.
Yeah, that's
just
a lot
like start
fun.
with a song that already exists instead of you've been using your brain the entirety of your life to have the blank white paper and just be given all the markers and stuff. And now it's almost like you have the drawing already done, but it's in these layers, and you can remove the layers and look at individual layers of the drawing and go like, oh, I never noticed that brown. I've looked at this picture forever, and I never noticed that brown. And when it's not there, it's a different thing. It feels that there's a different mood there. Like, oh, that brown is important. that piece of brown is in the Phil Collins song. It's this weird little detail that is like 10 seconds of a song that is like this, like, oh, but people expect it.
Yeah.
It's like in any cover version of it, you need it. You need the in the Friends thing.
Otherwise,
no matter what.
Yeah, or a fall short, and you're just going like, yeah, just you're missing something about it. And it's like some people may not even put their finger on it, but it definitely can stand out sorely if that element's not there.
Yeah,
like
you just
the claps.
You gotta get those
drum fill from.
As long as you just go through and just hit all of the you just have that palette of those colors, and you just draw with those colors. It doesn't really matter where they go, but as long as you've got those elements there, you can probably just. I bet you if you just sang the verses in a different order, that damn a Friends theme song, 90% of people wouldn't really notice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But if those claps don't come,
then they're like, man, this guy sucks.
Yeah, people are gonna be like, well, why did you bother? Why did you even bother with that?
More off this list I've got. I think of you a lot with this one. I'm like, Kevin would be stoked like if I'd made this, if I to hear it, like a slacker rap like version of REM's "End of the World," where you slow it down, and make it so all the words are like audible.
Yeah.
But like just change it in a way where it's like could be fun because you already know the song, but like you're hearing those deliveries differently.
And it's got a bass line that would deliver itself to that.
I haven't attempted the deconstruction yet, but like in my mind, it's everything gets slowed down. So like for me, right off the bat, like right now, the way I've been approaching it is like one way that like my baseline take of figuring the song out and making a recording of it. It's like that's the cover in itself. It's really I'm just trying to learn the song. But it already can be different on that first level by doing a different speed. And for me, slowing everything down is a method of like trying to break it apart to understand it. If it's like fast, you're just going like I'm not there. But when you slow it down, like now I'm using Ableton, you're just like I'll just put it in there. And just like change it and make it so it slows it down but maintains the pitch.
Isn't it crazy? Like I watched some videos the other day, and it was old footage of the two guitar players. I saw it on Instagram. The two guitar players from Korn, and they were like sitting in a room, and they both had guitars, and they were playing like their riffs like together. And it was the first time I've ever heard these songs for 30 years, probably at this point, nearly. Right? We're fast approaching 25 years of Korn, right? We are past that, but it was the first time I've ever heard him without the clicking bass, the vocal, and the drums. Also, different appreciation for that drummer in the last handful of years. The first drummer of Korn, David Silveria, perhaps. Anyway, different appreciation for that guy. But that's
where was the transition? What album was he not on afterwards?
Nothing you would have heard of Korn would have never been without him. If that makes sense.
So he was like early Korn.
He's the only Korn guy that through any of the stuff we know.
Like self-titled.
Yeah, he was self-titled. I think he was through like the 2005 or something. Like well after we stopped listening.
Follow
to
the Leader.
Yeah, he's on there. He's the short blonde hair guy that was up there. Like he hasn't been in the band now for years. Years.
That's the only drummer I'll know of.
But that's the only, like, exactly. He's the Korn drummer still to you and me, right? Which is probably very disrespectful to whoever the new guy is, but whatever. He's not watching my thoughts. But anyway, two dudes, Monkey and Head from Korn, short dreads for both of them, like that young, playing these guitar parts. And it was the first time where I was like, oh, these two guys hide each other's mistakes, and or not even mistakes, like just these little weird things, or the rest of the band that bass there muddies that part. I never could hear that he actually plays that note. It was really like, oh, I didn't even like. Now I go back and listen to it, I'm like listening to a completely different because I saw this like weird video of these two dudes just like playing all their hits and hearing how the two guitars like really were two different parts. I never really realized that. Like during those the heaviest, chunkiest Korn riffs and stuff, it really felt like one dude was in it, and another guy was going like in, like doing some other weird thing that wasn't exactly great. Like or like if you just heard it on yourself, it kind of just would have sounded noisy. But the two of them together plus all the elements, I was like, oh, this really is like. This band really is just a sum of these parts, and all these parts are definitely very unique and interesting and muddy to a point where maybe a cleaner recording would do them worse.
Yeah.
Like the production methods and the like it really made me go like, oh, that's maybe not the exact reason, but maybe one of the reasons why that bass player dude is important in there with his clicking and his like weird just low sub-low bass.
It's a very distinctive sound to that.
Clicking, but it like also like it's like having another percussion instrument hiding some of the other stuff that I say hiding like it's like they're making all these mistakes and stuff, but it's like some of those like riffs and stuff have these like weird turnarounds and stuff that when you hear them without some of those things feel like that I could feel like in rehearsal or something where they thought that like there's something missing here. I can't quite explain. I wish I could like come up with better examples of it, but it was just weird like hearing these Korn riffs for the first time in a million years and going like.
Were they playing acoustic guitars?
No, they were just the straight 7-string just through the amps like as loud and distorted,
okay.
And they were playing like. It was the first one was blind, so they were doing the call and response, and they were doing like the call and response. But really, when it got into the it really was like hearing the two guitars. It sounded like two dudes playing two different songs at the same time. That, like you couldn't really tell when everything was going on. You're just like the bass and everything. Like you,
I am ready.
You hear it more, but these two guitars, especially when they really get into like the verses part or the riffing right before the verses, it really kind of felt like one of these guys is really pulling the weight. It feels like another guy's playing some other part, but that can't be right because I don't know.
I've had Korn on the list it's been in the I've listened to Blind and Ball Tongue and Clown.
All these like songs that are like at one point probably like people are like nobody's ever gonna do a cover of these. These are such a unique sounding and like these are like on like a short list of like non-coverable songs. You know what I mean? Like is even more like interesting to me.
They stand out to me for like I'm like oh this has to be like some lower tuning than I would just be. This isn't standard tuning and I'm like just even trying to dissect one of these songs would be kind of outside my normal range I'd feel like, but yeah, it's almost like they've been floating around in a way where I'm like kind of this could be potential because I think for me I'm like I just it's so weird thinking that it's been as long as it's been that like that would have been stuff I was listening to on a Discman by myself in my life and you're just going like wow like I'm still like enjoying like listening to this right now, but it's so strange how far away that era was and how much has happened between now and then, and like here I am I feel like this like badge of coolness going like I remember listening to this and I'm like look I listen to this I'm like oh yeah this is real heavy and you're just going like I like that and
I
like
see why I like this
I
feel that it's like the one like is there a more disrespected, with the exception of ska music, style of music on earth than nu metal, right?
Yeah.
It's like the one genre that like nobody's ever taken super seriously. Everything cool over there?
Yeah, I'm like listening to it in the headphones, and it's like I'm just I hate it's like we're breaking the fourth wall, but like it's almost like I was like, oh wait, is his shirt like? I'm doing it right now, so it's picking up, but like the sound of the movement being like.
Has it been distracting the whole time?
Well, I've been monitoring in my headphones, and it hasn't been problematic.
I can try to keep more still.
But then I'm going like, is my voice sounds different than yours? Yours sounds like has like more clarity, and I'm listening to you. I am listening, but in my background, I'm also going like
doing some like audio.
Yeah, I'm like, is that only because I have the sound coming from my own self, so it's like phasing out with what I actually hear in the headphones. So like, if I turn me up, then I'd be too loud actually in the mix or something. And I'm like, well, I don't actually want to change it now.
Well, judged by your lights there, everything's good when you're like...
No, everything's redlining. And so it's like it's like definitely smashing it. But I have it loud and hot so that there's no weakness in signal.
Have I been redlining? I haven't really looked
Yeah, no, we're totally redlining all the time. But that's what I like about that. That and with the built-in limiter and stuff, it's compressing it, so it's squashing it. But you can hear that effect, but it's not as disturbing as like distorted audio with digital recording or something. So that's kind of giving me like a bumper guard there. But this is the first time I've used these in this application, so this is an experiment. And I'm just kind of like...
if it works, I'm all about it.
It may not work.
Oh, I hope it works, because I haven't put one thought into it, which has been nice. Even though my lack of thought has led me to bash the guitar into my chest once or twice.
So that's
I got to pay attention to that.
Yeah, that's like, those are the things where it's just like, I better not fold my arms up. But
twice I thought it was my sunglasses. Twice I've just like, while like not looking, I've just been like reaching down and just like touching it. So, what was I... because this has been on my mind. It's funny we're talking about it too. It's been on my mind of the idea that nu metal is like this like disrespected, and I'm not saying it as like a guy that wants to defend it in any way, because it is as silly as it is. It really is. But it also, like, we're this far away from it. We still know all of the it's been here for 25 years. There's still like traces of its influence literally everywhere. Some of those bands are still going and are still popular rock bands, and some of the ones that aren't, there's still like clamoring for them to be back. Your System of a Downs or whatever. There's still like, if they just announce a headlining tour of a bunch of stadiums, it would do well. Mm-hmm. Like, people still want that, right? So I think it's due some sort of piece of media or something that takes it serious. That's all I'm saying. I feel like I don't know if it's a book, I don't know if it's a documentary. There's no definitive thing that just sort of tells you the story of it and hits all of the like it really was.
I need a visual. I need a visual documentary that like it's showing like the past and the present and like what happened in between, and then telling a story that like does a good job at like providing like the knowledge of like the timeline, but then also like gives those artists and bands like an opportunity to like have like a realness there, where it was like, I feel like some of the criticism probably just came from like the ridiculousnly of the shticks of that era, you know? And it's just almost like, it became almost like this like juvenile thing where you're just going like, yeah, that's like, looks like you buy your shit at fucking Hot Topic or something.
And it was also because it didn't, as much as I love it, MTV and stuff, like that, it was the last, it existed in the end of the monoculture too, which is another reason I think we should take it more seriously, because it was like one of the last times we all knew about this stuff. You know what I mean? It was like the last time, like, that's a reason we still know that Limp Bizkit break stuff and all that, is because, like, collectively.
Yeah.
It's because it was, like, the last time that we were all collectively paying attention to stuff was, like, that boom. Which is why we still care about Britney. Which is why because they were all part of that big boom at the end.
Christina Aguilera came on the radio station when we went down on the shore last week. And I just was going on rants with Randy about, like, music and stuff. And I was just sort of like, man, I'll take this Christina Aguilera Genie in the Bottle any day over like the contemporary versions of this stuff, where it's like, and I started feeling like it just had such, it's just like I understand that they're handpicking these hits from that era, so it's like, it's not like they're just,
you are getting the cream of the crop.
Yeah, but like and comparing it to just like the modern stock or whatever, and it's just kind of like, maybe not a fair comparison, but you're just going like, I feel like I have less connection to like melodic pop music that I can like sort of like understand why it's popular. Where like I'll hear like modern equivalents of maybe what would be like young female artists singing, and you're just going like, I don't even want to hear this right now. Like when I was a kid, I was subject to it anyway. I had to hear it, and you're just going like, yeah, I mean, like, I don't like Britney, but I mean, like it's almost like I can tolerate it, and like now I'm an adult, now it's almost gotten to another level of like quality where you're just like, listen to this Christina Aguilera song.
Great. Can you believe there was a time where I didn't like this?
Yeah.
It was pretty good.
And maybe it's the same thing with Korn, where like there's a phase there where it was just sort of like, Well, I mean, you get into it, but then you almost like you keep growing, and you get into new bands, and all of a sudden that becomes like a stage, you know. And it's almost
Sure.
like I was more juvenile back then.
Sure.
So then you almost like it almost becomes like, no disrespect to it, but almost just like that gets put in that category then, and then until something maybe changes your perspective or rekindles your appreciation, like a documentary then that shows on like new metal, and kind of like I didn't know that they had all them problems, or like,
yeah, it needs to be. I think a big thing about new metal is it needs to be slightly reframed pop culturally. I feel like if you were a fan, like I considered myself at one point, if you were a fan, you were able to see through the public, what the public put on it, right? And what the public was putting on it was a direct comparison, a direct competition with other stuff of its same time, where it never happened like that before, and it'll never happen like that again. In that they were literally pitting Korn against Backstreet Boys and Britney Spears. Like they were like acting like this was the level playing field, and that on MTV, and it's like the beauty of MTV and all. I understand that you can see during the TRL years, you could see a Limp Bizkit video against Christina Aguilera video, right? But by doing that, oh God, bad example. Let's take Limp Bizkit out of it. That's a bad example. But by doing that type of stuff and elevating it to it's not elevating it either. By just putting it in a different category, by putting it into the MTV category, by taking new metal out of like the metal out of it, like taking it out of the heavy metal scene that in the 80s was your Metallica's, Anthrax's, Slayer's, Megadeth, Big Four, and then you also had the other side of heavy metal, that the hair metal stuff, and then there was the other side of heavy metal that wasn't the thrash, that was like Skid Row and Queensryche and Iron Maiden, and even though Iron Maiden's British new wave of British heavy metal, right? It had all of this, and none of that was pitted against Debbie Gibson. None of that was pitted against Tiffany or U2.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It wasn't on that level. It wasn't just like you went to school and the lines were drawn in the sand, even though it was, like the cliques existed and stuff. But it wasn't like they were comparing the art forms. They were just cliques that were hanging out in their cliques. Where by the time it got to TRL, you're talking about a song like Papa Roach's Last Resort, which is literally just a suicide. He says the word suicide in it. And you're literally putting it up against just a pop song. Yeah. And by doing that, it weakened it took it and filtered it into the pop world more, where it became silly.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, oh, the song about suicide. Like it became just like, oh, that guy's struggling through things. You didn't even think that, to the point where the dude from Linkin Park kills himself, and everybody's just like, whoa, that dude? Like that guy was talking about it the whole time.
Yeah, it's almost like you're like being desensitized by seeing it in the context where it's pop.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I mean. By putting it in that you have,
it's on TRL, so it can't be that sad.
You have neutered it, and I'm not defending because I'm not a fan of the I wasn't a huge Linkin Park guy. I didn't like Papa Roach. I'm not, but looking hindsight 2020, you just look back and you go like, yeah, there was a difference between the message of these songs that were all being pushed by the TRL narrative at one point. And I feel like Genie in the Bottle, we all took it, and not to say that Papa Roach that was huge. That was as big as Genie in the Bottle. But which one has like stood the test of time and stuff is the one that still has looked as like a pop song, and not the one that looks like it was like a passing fad of new metal, right?
That reminds you of dying.
Yeah. So I feel like it just needs to be refocused in that it was like, hey, these were a bunch of dudes, mostly, a bunch of like white suburban middle class dudes that invented this, that had something going on, that were upset about something. I don't exactly know what that something was all the time, but a lot of it was personal. It didn't have to be culturally. I know people listen to all these dudes were talking about like their sexual abuse, or it was more personal. It was emo music, but it had 7-string guitars, so it got a different name, right? That first Korn record is as emo as it gets. That's the most emo record, maybe. Like I will die on this hill and say that the first Korn record belongs with like American Football and Embrace, and like put it up there with the great emo records of all time in my mind.
I had Cleveland on my list too. That American Football, no, all-time quarterback. Oh, okay, never mind. Dang, football reference. I don't know. He's
All-time
confused
quarterback's
me.
pretty good, like
Well,
deep cut reference though.
Well, that was like something you put on a mix CD,
When it was probably
double
new.
digit years
yeah,
ago.
yeah, when it was happening.
And like that, I always like, that was always a good one. Like the way it evoked, like the there's like a good vibe there, and it was like it's like lo-fi, it's
lo-fi.
like, and it's almost like just revisiting it is scratching the itch enough where I don't think I'd want to try to do a cover of it, but it's like just like Hunting for It too. It's like not as that particular song wasn't as just like accessible as I would think it would be. Like maybe it is on Spotify. I don't know, but for some reason it was almost like I just searched it and it was like too many other things come up when you search all-time quarterback Cleveland.
Some of those, yeah. Some of those bands don't do themselves any favors, especially like if you're a band now. Like he gets the forgiveness of like being then, but if you're a band now and you make your band name like
A really hard to Google search thing.
New York Skyscraper, the band, and you're just like, oh my god, I'm never gonna find anything. All YouTube gives me is a million architects telling me like blah blah blah. You know what I mean?
Dude, you know what? That just made me realize like, not sometimes things seem like that would be a cool band name. Then you realize like maybe that actually wouldn't be because you think it's funny referencing that, but if like you're building the foundation of your project on a name that's got like several pages of information on the internet already like stocked. It's like you're kind of burying yourself. It's like, oh, let's name ourselves the Streisand Effect.
Yeah.
That sounds so funny, right?
Let's name our band Brand New.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that would definitely be you search
I just
that.
say Brand New into YouTube and see what I get.
Let's make our first album called Sales.
Yeah.
Brand New Sales.
Yeah, let's like again, these guys, a lot of them get like, okay, you existed in the not a pre-internet world, but when it wasn't like that. But yeah, I think maybe that's why band names are getting so silly too. Now that they're becoming like just like sound effects and noises and symbols and things like that, because you're just like, well, if I plug that one word, if I plug anarchy in and instead of a R, it's got a rights reserved R or whatever, like the one thing about it, like I'm only gonna find things that have to do with that. So thank you. Instead of naming your band again New York Skyscraper or
The Streisand Effect.
Midwest Beard or some just
Free beer.
yeah some silly other name the band Other Cool Band.
It's like that's like a thing that like a band could have good intentions and be a good band or even a really good band, but just like fall short on just things that are just like the name of the band could be like they don't even realize it's like a nail in the coffin to them wanting to maybe like have the most time they would like with it or something. You know
Who's in the Hall of Fame for that? First ballot Hall of Famer for like band that should never complain, but complains a lot, but should never complain because you did it to yourself. And you did it to yourself a lot. No, Hootie and the Blowfish.
Hootie and the Blowfish. Yeah.
You did that to yourself, man.
Everyone's gonna think you're Hootie.
Yeah, this is, and on top of it, you also named like your first record was like called like, oh, what was it? It's like a stupidly perverse title for like their very first like EP.
Yes, the lead singer of this band's name is Hootie.
And their second record, the popular one, is Cracked Rear View, is a butt joke.
It's like not taken seriously yet. They're on a major record label, and they're going to be
it's funny
indoctrinated into like a generation's like psyche.
And it's funny because like,
You're gonna make a butt joke.
Would you consider Hootie and Blowfish's music like funny?
No.
Like, do you think that they have a sense of humor?
No.
Outside of the way that they name things.
I think about like love songs and just kind of like
just like college
Bud
rock
Light,
bros. Yeah,
Bud
right?
Light,
watching the Dolphins or whatever.
like
right?
easy
No
to
sense
get
of
along
humor.
with.
And then they named it Cracked Rear View as a butt joke. Hootie and the Blowfish is the name of their band. Fairweather Johnson is the name of their follow-up to Cracked Rear View. The album that came after their smash record was called Fairweather Johnson.
It's like they have like a sense of humor, but it's like so dry that you don't even the joke's missed.
Yeah, it's just missed and
like
just
everyone
looks
missed that
bad.
joke.
I wish I could remember the name of the first EP. It's literally like
Come guzzling gutter slut.
it's. I bet you it is like. I'm pretty sure it is like a vagina joke.
Some Bloodhound Gang effort.
Yeah, it really. It's like one word. It's like
Use your fingers.
It's like coochie poo.
Coochie poo.
I think it has the word coochie in it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And you just see a record on the shelf.
Timeless name right
Hootie
there.
and the Blowfish, and it's called Coochie Pop.
Coochie Pop?
Yeah.
I had no idea that was a Hootie. So that didn't have any like the big radio stuff.
Crack Rear View was
Dang.
like the.
Yeah, it's almost like
They can't name anything. Do never let any member of that band name one thing ever. Then they complain about it. Darius Rucker, I bet every day for the rest of his life is like, I'm not Hootie. And I
Yeah.
just want to be like, you did it to yourself, motherfucker. You did it to yourself.
It was like an era where people could there was so much more opportunity for oddball just chances and weird stuff just getting through, where now you just be it'd be so hard to get it through because there's just so much shit to sludge through, where it's almost like,
well, now you could get away with it. The funny thing, if you were Hootie and the Blowfish and you released Coochie Pop in 2023, it'd sell 10 million copies.
Yeah. Coochie Pop's really good.
That's what I was saying about how that censorship has been bullied. That censorship of that type of stuff, you hear not to sound like an old man, but WAP, which is already a couple years old now.
Yeah.
But if we're at the level where just
small children knew about that.
Yeah, we're on a level of that. That means that type of censorship has just been bullied completely out of pop culture, at least here in America. We still can't show a nipple on TV. We're still uptight about that type of thing. But when it comes to language and what even that language means, all bets are off now. It's also smeared with that, which is why I go back to Megan, which is why it's so weird that they care so much about making a PG-13 horror movie, because I'm just kids are watching.
Was there body parts in that, in a sexual context? Was there any butts or boobs?
No.
Just
No. So again, we can, because every day we turn on the news and people are dying en masse, we can, that doesn't bother us as much.
Yeah, just a desensitization.
But all of a sudden, what was the last, think about the last, famous body part was Janet Jackson. You know what I mean? That ended a career 20 years ago, and we haven't gotten over it since.
Yeah, I remember that definitely. It was because her boob slip?
Yeah. Think about, has that happened since?
I don't know. Didn't Miley Cyrus have a couple instances?
Yeah, but
it
didn't end her career like it did Janet Jackson.
Was her career really ended by that though?
Yeah, she was blacklisted. That was the end. Two people. That had two effects on two different.
To me, my mind is just going I remember that happening, but to me, I'm just going she was at the end of. She was kind of maybe she was just kind of like Kurt Cobain without the whole suicide thing, where she just kind of got out while she was still at a peak, but she hadn't.
That's the Super Bowl halftime show. You don't do the Super Bowl halftime show
at the end of your career. Yeah, it's true.
No, that's
so naive. I just assumed she was just done.
No. So here's what happened in the 90s, and this doesn't happen anymore. But here's what happened.
She was getting too old for it. Or something.
Here's what happened then and now. It's what happened then and just a little after. That doesn't happen now as much, hopefully. But it happened then. Is these things happened to Janet Jackson and Pam Anderson, where they had other people involved in their controversy. So we have Tommy Lee and we have Justin Timberlake, where the Justin Timberlakes are elevated by the event, and then the woman side of it are squashed completely.
Yeah.
Is what happened in these events, right? Where other people survive it and thrive off of it. Tommy Lee is a sex god. When you think about Tommy Lee in the context of the sex tape leak and stuff like that, you think that dude got a big dick.
Yeah.
You think of all that stuff. You think Pam Anderson and that stuff? No, you think oh, that girl got her shit stolen. That was the end of Baywatch. She did Barbed Wire and it was never seen again. It successfully ended her career as being that completely.
I feel like I watched the thing one, the movie one.
There's a TV show.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah,
I feel I watched. It's almost in my mind blurry enough where I'm
the irony of a TV show.
Did I watch all of it? Or
no, there's the irony of that TV show.
It's just a movie, I felt like, but I guess maybe I just watched one episode.
Yeah, there's a TV show of it, but the irony of that is that
it was probably Red Letter Media that I watched, and there was enough information there where I digested the whole thing, just being oh, I feel like I just got what I would have needed to get out of that.
I got the Wikipedia entry version.
Yeah, where you sympathize to understand this. It just watching almost their conveyance of it. If that's even correct, if that's a reference that they did do a thing on it, but that it basically gave me a new perspective on all that. Because you almost kind of take it for granted that this thing happened. You know, as the dude, he's just all kind of hyped up by it. And for her, she was like, "Oh, a scandalous sex tape." But the way it changed their careers and the way it actually maybe hurt or benefited the parties differently, and then you realize just like how you know, if you were in that person's shoes, how like, oh wow, how much that really must have sucked.
Yeah, and then like for Janet, that it had the same sort of effect. But what I was going to say, the irony is that they do a TV show years later trying to tell her story about it that she doesn't want told. She didn't get permission. So the same way that they like, the same way that like this thing was that she didn't get permission was being released originally, a sex tape that she did not get permission to be released. Then years later, they're like, we're going to tell your story. We don't care if we have your permission or not to go ahead and tell the story and then make her seem like a sympathetic character. Like you feel bad for Pam Anderson in that. And you're just like, no, we should feel bad for the real Pam Anderson who now has had the sex tape and now isn't even getting to tell the story her way. It's 100% her story. And she's not even getting the chance to tell it her way. She told you not to do it. It's wild. So it's like, I don't know, it's just like, I feel like that a lot. I feel like that for Janet too. Is like, oh, that doesn't happen as much anymore. Like I feel like, maybe I'm wrong about this, but women have done a really good job in the last handful of years of putting it out there with the WAPs and stuff where they're just like, we have the control of it. We've taken the control of it all.
With the WAPs and stuff.
The WAPs and the like.
Stuff.
And the like, the Lizzo.
Tell me more about the and stuff part. I wonder whether there's some more WAPs out there. Because that song was crazy. Because I remember like my kids were definitely too young where it fortunately was not, did not infiltrate into the household. But like I saw in like, you know, other out in the world, you're just surprised, just going like when you're discovering it and you're just realizing like you're like behind on knowing about, now you know about it and you're just going like, I can't, what? And it's like she's singing that, and you're like, that she's only that old, and you're just going, it's crazy. You're
think about how many back to it. Think about how many like hit songs Janet Jackson had.
Yeah, she had like
a million.
She had tours you knew the name of, and you wouldn't.
Now I feel like
the Red Velvet tour, Velvet Rope tour.
Now, if you just word association 20 people, just say Janet Jackson. What do you think is the word association?
I don't know.
It's nipple. It's Nipplegate. It's Super Bowl. It's all revolves around that. Guaranteed.
Yeah, if you just dropped that right on me and just said Janet Jackson, you know what? I don't think I would even think that.
Really?
I think I would probably you know, first thing about her legacy of like being in the family. So it'd be like almost like Jackson 5, but like to me it was almost like in the 90s.
But you only have one word. What if I
just
came up to you and said one word, describe Janet Jackson? What's the first word that pops in your head?
Velvet.
Yeah, velvet.
Because the
Velvet Rope.
Velvet Rope. Yeah.
Well, then you're one of the better ones, because I feel like if you ask 20, I bet you get 18 Super Bowl references.
Because I almost forget that because I didn't see it, but I remember came of it, and I just remember just feeling like, can
you name anything post that?
No.
That's exactly it.
Wow.
Or can you name a Pam Anderson thing post sex tape?
Everything was probably pre is what I would draw in my head.
Yeah, no,
any cameo.
These are the lessons that I think that this bullying of censorship has done a good job for, is the fact that women have learned that they can bully that censorship and work in their favor, and they can be as sexually out there and expressive as they want. And I don't know, maybe I'm drawing lines of things that don't get drawn, but I see these stories sometimes and I really think about them like I do with that. And I just go like, 100% right. Society screwed these people over. And like it's wild the way that we just kind of look at it on a level and we forget about these things, even though they're closer in history than we even really think about. I mean, Justin Timberlake is still a celebrity. You know what I mean? Like he's now had a career longer than
Was he standing next to her?
He's the one that ripped the thing off.
Oh.
He was a willing participant. It's not like
it was like during a performance or something, right? Yeah.
And at the end of the song, he like grabs across, like they had a plan, like or something. So he was a knowing conspirator. It's not like he was just an innocent bystander. That's what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, so that wasn't like some accidental slip. That was like some stage thing.
She had like a thing around her nipple, like protecting it.
So that was like they was planned.
Yeah, that somebody had to have planned it, even though they played it off like it was an accident because it was Super Bowl live TV. but it was meant to just like do this other thing, and it skyrocketed one, and one had no repercussions from it at all, and it ended the other.
No
and
way,
like I
dude.
said,
No, next you're gonna tell me that Kennedy was someone planned that. That was like not an accident.
no, if you look at the footage, like he grabs the chest, and she literally has something covering the nipple that is exposed.
Oh, so it was like an accident, kind of was like an intentional thing, but not. It wasn't meant to be like that showing the nipple. It was just
probably yeah, in order to just completely because it was still live TV.
so it was like kind of like yeah, I can kind of see like the idea of it being like we're gonna rip this thing off, but your nipple will be covered, so it just seem extreme, but you're not actually gonna be topless. And
Exactly.
it's like, but that part there we have to cover it up so your nipple won't be there, and then it's like or that method fails, and it's
So
like
they
it
didn't
accidentally ripped the whole thing
Yeah,
off.
so they didn't even fully commit to the bit.
Well, yeah, so I've kind of like
And now
forgotten
Justin
about that.
Timberlake has
Wow.
probably had a career longer in years than she has during her total. Since then.
Different ages though. I mean, she was kind of like not at the beginning of hers though. I mean, she was a child and then a young adult, and then she was already like what?
I think we confused...
When did that happen? That was 2000s.
Yeah, but I think we confused Janet Jackson's age because she was a kid. Janet Jackson would have been the same age as her peers during that time. She just was more famous longer.
So I mean, also she was she like in her 30s?
She would have been like, yeah, probably her 30s. She was Madonna, Whitney Houston, like the age of people that were also very popular. Like I said, that had careers longer. It was just that Janet Jackson was a child star, so we just, like Michael Jackson, we knew her. But if Madonna was a child star, she would have already been a child star for, what, 20 years at that point?
Yeah.
30 years at that point. We just knew Janet longer, so it seemed like she was on the downside, but she was still Velvet Rope, and like she was still there. And with the way that like her contemporaries continued beyond that, or like, you know, the Mariah Careys of the world and things like that just kept going. I don't know, it's just weird. And it all like I feel like it's not like all the rest of those people don't have an incident. Like they don't have you can't think of like a moment that's like the before and after, the jump the shark moment, if you will. But you can to Janet Jackson. And you don't even think of so here's the other side of it. If you ask 20 people Justin Timberlake, nobody's gonna bring that up.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the detail. I mean, to me, it's blurry, so I mean, like, I wouldn't have. That would have been way down the list.
And he was the.
Oh yeah, that's right. He was
the Lee Harvey Oswald to the Janet Jackson Kennedy. He was the conspirator that was there. Every shot of her boob hanging out from the Super Bowl's got Justin Timberlake right there in it.
I'm having a hard time even thinking of a Janet Jackson hit from that era.
Who was a dude that was I
can hear it, but
who was a guy that was still at that time sort of aimed at kids, where she wasn't.
Yeah, she was definitely adult.
Yeah, just wild.
Beck beer can. Mm-hmm. That one just feels like it's just been in the pocket forever, and I'm just like, I just feel like I've done several Beck covers, and none of them are.
It's all about that bass line for beer can.
Yeah, and it's very loops, very loopy. Yeah. So it's like within my realm, but it's like it's just trying to approach it in a way where I'm not just making like a pretty tit for tat rendition, but like how can I recreate something that already sounds like something I would make, or want to make or whatever. So it's almost like weird to think about how that would be different. Folk Implosion's Natural one. Either Tyler or Tyler Possum Kingdom reference ideas. Oh yeah, so yeah, on that Toadies album, Tyler and Possum Kingdom both, if I'm not mistaken, if you listen to in headphones, are just rock 90s production. I just remember having an experience listening to him one time, just being like, man, like
great guitar tones and things.
I need to use this as a reference for a project, just to see if I can even come close to pulling off the way that they did that with that element to the mix. For me, it was like a mixing kind of
and
reference.
Fun time signatures.
Do they? Yeah. Do they? Yeah. Yeah. So that would break the norm of my not four to the floor, but just rock beat, where I'm like, oh, I'll do a more complicated drum rhythm later, and it doesn't get to that point.
Is Tyler?
It's got
That's
like
just like 4/4, but definitely Possum Kingdom
Yeah.
has that whatever that drag 4/5.
another.
Soundgarden also does that a lot. Soundgarden real good for the like, oh, you guys got weird time signature.
Yeah, so it throws
things
you
for
off.
my covers and things.
So it's like oh, I can't just break this down into blocks as easily.
Yeah, but
Now
not
I
as
need to
easily. That's what happens when
figure
you
that
let
out.
the drummer become the singer and write the songs. Because Chris Cornell was the original drummer. He was like the original drummer forever, and then they're like, oh, this guy can sing. He should probably be our singer. But since he's like a natural drummer and he writes the songs now, he like writes these songs that are all those weird. That's why Soundgarden songs are always weird time
He could
signatures,
hear
'cause Chris Cornell
He could
wrote
hear his
in-
own drums in his head.
Yeah, because he wrote in 5/4 all the time and weird drum things.
because of that,
and then
he
they
could
get Matt
write.
Cameron to play drums, who's a great drummer who can follow.
Yeah, that's tremendous to think about, like the sort of ability to take different skill sets musically and the way that they affect the other, the way the skills affect each other.
Yeah.
So they're not like isolated. So if you get
Yeah.
really good at playing bass, it's not like it has no effect on other avenues of music instrument playing. It's like, well, if you got that fundamental down, now the way you play those other instruments might, if you've played bass mostly, then that might be like, you might be coming at those instruments with a bass player's mentality, and whatever your character is like with that instrument, it's interesting.
Lights shine through still.
Yeah, and it's kind of it just, that's what makes music for me, like recording and stuff, just so much fun, is just because of the nuances and character of like these individual moments, where you're capturing a recording of a band practice of a band. And, like, to me, there's just so many different ways you can do it, so many ways you can do it wrong, so many ways you can come out of it being satisfied. But it's just like, at the end of the day, like, capturing and documenting that stuff is exciting to me because of how, unique and special, like, each musician's, like, background plays into that what they're
Yeah.
doing. Even if they suck, it's almost like, why are they even doing it in the first place? Because of a passion or an interest that has a charm there that, like,
Isn't it wild how that works? Isn't it wild to think that there are bands and groups of musicians and stuff where members are disposable? I don't call them disposable. We'll call them disposable. But there are bands where certain members are disposable, where it wouldn't change much of the DNA of the band, that band could continue. Maybe you don't even know that the band had swapped drummers. You know what I mean? And then other ones where you're just like, no, if that member leaves, that band is cooked.
yeah.
That band takes everything. Like, I think about like Faith No More being one of my favorite bands, how they were really this like wild band that everybody brought something different and something unique, but they were so wild and different and unique that if you swapped out any of them, it changed the band. But they didn't. It was only ever the guitar player. It was the singer, I guess, one time, because they did make a significant singer change.
Yeah,
but
singer will definitely change it. Like, yeah, you get a
the
new
singer's
singer.
probably the like most obvious one of
It
that.
could become a whole nother genre.
But there have been, I think that there are, no, this is not going to be true at all. I was going to say, there are a lot of examples of bands losing just the guitar player who didn't sing, and that band was just never the same. You know what I mean? Like, Van Halen obviously couldn't have been Van Halen without Eddie Van Halen, but they had 3 singers.
Yeah.
So that's like a wild,
Yeah.
they continued. So like there's those aspects, but
So
you
as
take
an example where the vocals change, but then the band can still exist, it's like, that's a good one where it was like, yeah, it did change a couple
But matter of
times.
fact, you could
What
swap
about, like, AC/DC?
You could swap out that bass player too. You could swap out the drummer of Van Halen, I think. If you just had a good drummer.
So there could be, it's like the potential of that, where at least one, or there could be
Dominating
more,
force.
but where like their element is so critical.
Yeah.
It feels like a lot of 3 pieces
Yeah, the 3-piece is definitely
are like
on
that
level.
because you can get like
You
this
miss an-
chemistry.
Yeah,
where,
if you're missing
the
an
Minutemen,
arm.
like you can't replace a single minute.
Yep.
You're one of those guys without it. Just it's a different
And
band.
Nirvana just went the opposite way, thankfully. They replaced drummers but kept getting better. If they would have stepped back, it would have been terrible. They couldn't get a step back. Every
Yeah.
drummer was better, and that they got better.
Yeah.
But the minute they would have gone backwards with the drummer,
Wow. Yeah.
so they went the right way with it. But if you would, but like, yeah, you can't take any member of Rush away.
Yeah.
And yeah. There are other ones like that. So yeah, it's wild thinking about that. But a band I was thinking of the other day that was, I want to take the guitar player out of the Deftones. I'd like to know what that band would be like now without the dude that just brings the metal. And I compare it to like Faith No More, where they had a guitar player that just brought the metal for a long time and then fired him, and the band got really interesting. Like, not to say that the Deftones aren't interesting, and they're always willing to do interesting things and have been now for 25 years. But there is an element where I'm just like, well, that guy is a flat earther, and he is also he's not on tour right now because he refuses to get any kind of like thing to go overseas. Yeah, he's like one of those dudes. So part of me is just like, what if you just let that dude go and see what happened to the band for a while? I bet it'd be interesting. I don't think that's a band I think that's a band that could thrive with a different guitar player.
Would it change the band?
It would change it, yeah.
It almost feels like you'd have to like come up with a whole nother...
It would, but I feel like it would...
But then you would have the audience built in.
But it would be the same change that happened with Faith No More. Because if you listen to The Real Thing and Angel Dust, same guitar player, similar sound, similar sounding band, they fire that guy, and then they do King for a Day, Fool for a Lifetime, which I think is far more interesting than those other two records. With a more interesting guitar player. They got that guy from Mr. Bungle to play guitar, right? And the band was like, oh, you opened up all the other things you can do. Like, now you can do country songs, and now you can do now you can really let your wings spread. Where anytime it was like a guitar song, you're just like, yeah, if I get that guitar tone, the same heavy metal guitar tone that the guitar player from Faith No More brings every single time. The Deftones have a similar thing, since it's one guitar player, essentially, and he has one kind of distinctive new metal-y guitar sound that I can picture in my head right now.
New metal-y.
Yeah, he's got, like, if you were trying to do I don't know, there are bands where you could, like, I can emulate them. You give me 4 minutes and I'll write a Deftones song, and it'll have that guitar tone.
Yeah, like what if you wanted to make something sound like new metal, circa like 1997, 98? Like, what would be? It's almost like that would be like a fun exercise where it's like, who knows what you'd come up with, or like what would you be?
Close. I bet I could get that in the ballpark.
So like, what would be some like what do you think would be like some like right off the top of your head? I mean, like things that got to be incorporated to have that sound. It
would just be. I would start with the guitar stuff.
I think with Korn would be going for me is like with Korn, those guitars, So yeah.
Yep. I would go guitar stuff first. It would start there. It would be fat humbucker B. I would tune to B, which would be a 7-string having another string would be tuned down to B like a 5-string bass, because E B. So the one after E would be B, so it would work the same way here.
Yeah.
E and B, so it's a B string on a 7-string, which is why it's so low. So I would just tune this string. I would maybe just tune the guitar B, A, or B, E, A, like basically shift them where this string doesn't exist. This string becomes this string, this string becomes this string, this string becomes this string, and then this string, but push them up, take the string off, push all these up one, and then put a B on there. This is what I would do.
To get that low.
And then keep it like drop D open. Come up with a riff that bounces, or something that just kind of moves. The hip hop influence of new metal has to be there.
Yeah, what's the drum? How would you describe drums broadly from the
Korn
drum?
A lot of Korn drums are disco. Got the Life. Dun, 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 dun. He's just playing almost like a disco drum. Like, it's not the overhand Dave Grohl style. It's not boom boom ba boom boom ba. Nobody's doing that.
Or what about double kick? Would you put double kick? No double kick.
No, that's too heavy metal.
That's too yeah.
It'd be really. It'd be clicky. It'd be hip hop. It would be Rage Against the Machine drums. That he was the drummer that the new metal guys were boom boom ba boom 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 ba boom 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 ba boom, and they just played that faster.
That's what the name of this like if this actually gets cut and be a video, it would be like what is new metal?
What is new metal? Kevin defines new metal.
Because it's like, these elements, it's like, or bring up the double kick thing, it's like, that to me, it's already like, oh, that's relatable, but it's almost like, but no, that's not the right element, actually. And yeah, it's like, so with new metal, they definitely had a lot more
the hip-hop influence was in the rhythm.
Yeah, like the drums are something that it isn't just about speed or backing crutch for like rhythm as much as it's like, but like it's more of like a bombastic.
Yeah. And more rhythm. It's not about speed. It literally is
Yeah.
more rhythm. You think of Blind,
Yeah.
and it's boom, 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 ba, boom, 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 ba, boom, boom, ba. There's a lot of just kick drum. There's a lot more technical to it, but it isn't.
So technical. So maybe like how's technical play into
The least.
the elements? So
The least. Closer to punk rock dudes. New metal was dudes, like I said, you watch the two guys from Korn, and there was an element of me going like, one of these two guys doesn't know what they're doing. there was a weird suspicion.
There's something about that. Again, being Korn as an example, where like the guitar tone, when I think about that, is what it was like. So it was very distinctive. Where it almost just seemed like while there was a lot of examples of that genre, that they seem to be able to like a lot of cases carve their own sound.
Yeah.
You know, where if you heard that, you know that's the bass from that band
Yeah.
or something, or like maybe the drums or the vocals.
A lot of the it's percussive. A lot of the bass stuff is very percussive. It isn't slinky. It is always closer to the hip hop element. It exists on the bass side of a lot of it.
Aesthetically, I visualize a lot of hip hop dress, like wearing Adidas high socks. You know?
Yeah. Adidas jumpsuits. The entire Adidas tracksuit.
Yeah.
Right? So the hip hop influence, because again, the late 90s was the death of genre. So these kids that grew up, white kids that were listening to Dr. Dre and Tupac, and those kids, they're from California. They're from Bakersfield, California. They're right down the street. Bakersfield is the birthplace of like country music, you know, the Bakersfield sound. And yet you're like not that far from the birthplace of gangster rap. Right? You're like in the same state. Right? So, not to say that there's a country influence there, but
Eclectic.
But that's the type of like white kids that are being like, it's like, so the same place that it like that part of California and stuff is all these like country music fools from the 50s, 60s, and 70s coming to that part of California, raised all these angry white kids that all got guitars and then grew up during hip hop. Like the math is pretty simple here, really. Right? They just got guitars. They grew up on Metallica. Black Album's the biggest band, or is the biggest album of all time, like in 1991. They're young teens at that point. They hear Metallica, then they hear Nirvana. They hear kids being emotional. They hear younger people.
Ain't nothing but a G thing.
But then they hear hip hop. Then all of a sudden you just get the heaviness of the Metallica. I feel the emotional weight of Kurt Cobain. I feel, and then the sort of cocky abrasiveness of hip hop. The rhythms, the something.
Ice Cube.
Skateboard culture.
Family Values Tour.
Nobody's skateboarding to thrash metal. Nobody's doing the extreme sports and stuff to the fast stuff like that. It's all beat really. I don't know. It's just the math right there. Like it's like, yeah, like it was not going to happen. It was not going to happen. It was the last time it happened, but it was not going to happen. So you need the 7-string guitars. You need, or at least detuned. But 7-string, if you like in an ultimate, like if this was like a
tone wise, what like Frizzle Fried, just like distortion, no clean guitar, right? No chorus clean. Would you
maybe if you were going to have a clean guitar, chorus would be essential.
Yeah, so you like
some sort of effect. Yeah, some sort of no clean, no Fender guitars, no Fender guitars at all. Keep Fender completely out of it.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Even Gibson, keep Gibson out of it. We need to go. Like the 90s alternatives.
Some Kramers.
Maybe even a Kramer, but that maybe even still feel too
metal?
80s metal still, with like the Floyd Rose, because there's no Floyd Rose. You want like none of that. So you just go Jackson, you go Ibanez, you go BC Rich, you go there's like alternative things, right? Tuned down. So drums are slow. There was no fast. What was a fast? There are no fast new metal songs. There's no fast ones.
Yeah, I mean, like I feel like
speed. So speed is not an element.
They had like slow mosh style.
Yep, they would have the bounce. It was about that bounce. It was about guitar riffs that were like these.
How many guitar players would you need?
I would do 2, just because I would want somebody doing the.
Not counting the bass player.
Yeah, 2 guitar players. I would want somebody just riffing. I would riffy guy, and then I want other guy doing higher pitched stuff. The guy from Deftones always had to bounce, you know, like he had to do the jin 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 jin. He had to like play both parts because he was one dude. And then eventually Chino started playing guitar. So I think maybe that was probably a decision like, hey, if we can have you, even if you barely know what you're doing, can you just play a little extra low end? Because we just need that low end. It's all about that low end. Just so then during production stuff, muddy low end stuff, nothing bright. The guitars have to just, I don't know where, two guitars, I don't want to know where one begins and one ends. And then the bass, the trick to the bass is just going to emulate the guitar parts. No bass that's going off and doing its own bass playing. That'd be the other trick. It would just, whatever the rhythm guitar player is playing, the bass is just going to thicken that up, would be my thing. And then he'll do it clickier.
Yeah.
He'll just make it more percussive. Either slap bass style, like the Mudvayne guy who was always slap bass, or the Korn guy, which is literally just like tune the string down to where it barely stays on the neck and slap it. And it's more about that thumb action. Instead of the actual notes played.
Yeah.
It's more about the clicking.
The percussion, percussiveness of it.
And then drum stuff, slow. I hear a lot of like higher snare to cut through the low.
That real like ringing.
Yeah, a lot of like
not deadened. Not
something
deadened
that
snare.
But something that's brighter. Something that just like where all the guitars are, you can still hear that click, 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 click snare. A lot of clicking. A lot of those triggered drums where everything is just clicks.
Yeah.
So the toms, no resonance.
I would also say like a pretty no double kick, but like it seems like a fair amount enough drums where like there's like multiple crash, like there's a fair spread to get different.
Or if you do
drum
double
fills.
kick, if there is double kick, you use that as like not. You don't pedal. You don't do the double kick pedal. You just do the
occasional little
on your way
roll
through the rolls where you just hit both or whatever. Yeah, you can probably get away with that. But I really don't picture a lot of those, with the exception of the guys that made it their thing. With the exception of Fear Factory, like where the drummer was like, oh, he's one of the elements of the band you can't get rid of. That guy's like a machine. Or later on, I don't consider him nu metal, but Meshuggah. Like, you take that drummer out of that, and you're like, oh, that's a different band. That's the drummer isn't important. His rhythms and his sounds or whatever are like much more crucial. But Fear Factory drives on that. Fear Factory's like whole gimmick was like man versus machine. So the machine aspect had to be a tight drummer. So like I said, like so that there's an exception to every one of these. Every one of the nu metal guys also needed a shtick. So like my building of a nu metal is if you're just going with the bland non-shtick version.
Okay.
And then every version of it would have the shtick where it was like, oh, all of those elements but female vocalist, and we have Kitty. All of those elements but more slinky bass playing. You might get more of a Deftones thing because he wasn't a clicky bass player guy. He was much more, but he was just kind of following the rhythms either. He wasn't doing his own thing. You know what the biggest thing, also not talked about, was nu metal definitely was so inspired by metal. Obviously, those guys probably all listened to all of those, and then the bands that were like the cross, the in betweens, that like the like. One of my favorite genres of music is like the pre-nu metal, post-metal bands, where I think that's where Faith No More belongs. That's where Helmet belongs, and that's where like Far belongs, and Prong I would still kind of throw into like the double kick.
I don't know anything about it. I just know it's just a reference. The like,
dudes that would like
you've told me about Prong. That's
the Dickies, like early '90s, like California, like Hum.
Yeah.
Like those metal bands that weren't metal bands, like the pre-Deftones.
Yeah.
Like oh, these guys are heavy, but no leather jackets to be seen. Like they're like I said, like a Far, Failure. You remember Failure?
No.
Had the astronaut on the front like in '90s. Great. Oh, these are like all bands that like I said, that like Unsane.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I would put in there is like those like pre-nu metal like building blocks of nu metal bands, like, and then nu metal hits. But it's even crazy when you think about it, because that first Korn record is '94. Like, think about the fact that '94 has Kurt Cobain and Korn. There is a literal year where those two did exist at the same time. It wasn't as like late 90s when it exploded. There was an era where like you could have bought Unplugged in New York and bought that first Korn record in the same year. You know what I mean? Like they're like I said,
Man,
I
the
think
radios were just chock full of opportunity back then.
but at the time, radio squashed it. Radio wasn't ready for new metal. See, it was bubbling, and that's why I think all those bands didn't quite get famous. So you have grunge. So you have the Alice in Chains, Soundgardens, Pearl Jams, Nirvanas, and then the lesser. Then you've got your Screaming Trees and Tad and all of the lesser. And then you have the other grunge, which are the non-Seattle, the Smashing Pumpkins, Stone Temple Pilots grunge. Right? So all of this happens in the early part of the 90s, right? And then by the mid-90s, Kurt Cobain dies, right? And then when Kurt Cobain dies, then the new metal stuff starts bubbling under, right? Because like I said, 94, so the passing of the baton is there, right? But it gets squashed down a little bit because society is like, no, we've had enough of that. We need Counting Crows. We need Blues Traveler. We need the Spin Doctors. So these bands show up. And later Third Eye Blind, later Matchbox 20. These crops of bands take over because they're tired of Angry, right? So then those kids that kind of like that anger and now are listening to Far and Failure and Helmet and stuff, they're starting their bands and they're getting mad that Third Eye Blind is the band that's on the radio. Or not Third Eye Blind because they sort of come a little later, but Spin Doctors, or Counting Crows. They're here. They hear Mr. Jones and they're going like, no.
Mid-90s alternative.
Yeah, and that was just a direct response to the grunge years being so dour for like 4 years. Then the dude kills himself and everybody's like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
Mr. Jones sounds great, right? Oh, Little Miss can't be wrong.
Yeah.
And there's just a flood, and then you know. So then when new metal finally does just like erupt, it is an actual like eruption. You know what I mean? Like all these bands blow up out of nowhere. You get big events. You get big cultural events that I also say should be taken seriously in the fact that like, okay, so you get the Woodstock 99 disaster where we really get to see like where all of this stuff sort of gets dangerous, where we're just like, oh, see again, when we elevate this stuff and don't keep it kind of in its own little thing, where the heavy metal kids now are partying with Jewel, things are going real bad. Right?
That's a clip.
Yeah, I've been saying that about music for years. I've been saying that about music forever, is that it's like the one thing that I think that it's like okay to strangely segregate. It's great that we can blend it all and stuff like that, but at the same time, like what is the things that people say when they get back from a Warped Tour or an Ozfest or a Lilith Fair is the family. Mm-hmm. Oh, you get knocked over at Ozfest, they will pick you up.
What's the one the clown ICP? What's their? Don't they have like a festival?
Yeah,
Juggalos.
Yeah. The Gathering of the Juggalos.
Yeah, like that's like that has like it's
right?
like that.
Are they inviting Jewel to that? No.
Yeah,
they're keeping it to their people.
Yeah, they're keeping their thing.
They're your thing, right? And again, it there was no harm in it. I feel like people celebrated Ozfest and people loved, like people still are like, oh, the old Warped Tour, blah blah blah. And then all of a sudden, like we started like smashing all these things together and putting all these groups of people together that can't behave because society can't behave. And then we get a Woodstock 99 disaster, which is also a million other things. I don't want to just blame the people and security issues, and there's a billion other reasons. That was just a perfect storm of bad.
Yeah, Mother Nature took a helping hand in that disaster.
But also like, I can't think of other examples of specific festivals. Can you think like what's the disaster that happened at Ozfest? I can't think of a controversy. I can't think of a controversy of Lilith Fair. I can't think of a controversy of Warped Tour.
And you're saying that those were more like a concentrated
built
theme,
for and by
genre theme.
Festivals
Style vibe.
Yeah,
and then
Lollapalooza.
When you go and bring and try to mix it all up, it probably maximize people being able to make money because you have like all these different walks of. You have all these different ways.
And the appeal is that.
Yeah. And then you get all this variety and like all this big thing. It's like I've never been interested in that, but like I like going to those things.
But then
like,
you get an aggro dude that's looking for Limp Bizkit and Metallica, and you make him sit through Sheryl Crow.
Yeah, and
I'm not saying anything against Sheryl Crow because I would probably want to be watching Sheryl Crow, but like,
what are they doing?
And
while
then all of a
she's
sudden,
playing?
when they start fist fighting, people are like, "Oh, what happened?" And I'm just like,
Yeah.
"I can tell you what happened, man. People can't be trusted.
Well, they get
They can't be trusted with this shit.
You're
You need to keep them in their."
at a concert, and you're just going like, I don't like this music
When
right now.
does the Red Hot Chili Peppers start, and why do I have to listen to this woman?
I still have to pee real bad.
Yeah, and I just paid $18 for a bottle of water.
I have to shit.
Yeah, and I'm standing in what I think is shit.
Yeah, it smells like it.
Yeah, so like, yeah, and then people just like, now we have documentaries like every year on it for the million years.
What?
Yeah, there's 2 Woodstock 99 documentaries last year. 2
Dang,
different ones.
I didn't know there
and they
was
were
any.
popular. Oh yeah, they're super popular. And both of them just kind of like, a lot of times they kind of shrug and they're just like, well, yeah, this is the things that like, yeah, no, the math
shit.
seems real easy to me. Like go ahead and do the festivals that are just like, and they're doing them and they're fine. Like they're just at that emo fest that when we were young, I don't know anything about it because it came and went without event. You know what I mean? Like, but a billion people are crushed at a festival last. Not a billion, however many people.
A billion people were crushed.
How many people were crushed?
Fact check.
Fact check my billion. Might be 10, but 10 people are crushed to death at a headliner of Coachella, whatever that was last year. No, what was it? The Travis Scott concert.
Yeah.
The Astro World, Houston World, or whatever.
Sounds familiar.
Stuff like that. Even though I don't think that was like a big festival that invited.
Well, that would have been
lot
a concentrated focus.
Yeah, that might have
kind
been
of event.
a concentrated focus of event. But I don't know, though. I could be wrong about that,
Yeah,
too.
I don't recognize any of these
Yeah,
artists to be able to
yeah,
say,
yeah.
oh yeah, they're really different from one
Again, it's
another.
also different now because the genre is dead.
I would just see all the names and just be like, they must all be like.
I also
insane.
I also could be completely speaking out of turn that maybe it is fine now to just do all these things without these incidences and just fix all the other things because again, all of that stuff doesn't matter. The examples I'm using of Ozfest and Warped Tour and Lilith Fair and Lollapalooza are all things that are all dated now. So maybe I'm just saying that maybe at the time it was just best if we stayed in our lane where now it doesn't matter as much. But at one point, like I've always said this, I've gone to a million. I've gone to every one of those examples. With the I didn't go to Lilith Fair, but I went to every one of those, including the one touring Lollapalooza. And the only time that I ever felt like there was a bunch of goobers and felt like things were going to go wrong were HF festivals, where it was just like, hey, a bunch of different things, and we attract everybody.
Yeah.
You don't even have to like music. Come on down as a party.
Yeah.
Just get drunk and hang out.
Drink.
Yeah.
In the day.
And just have a bunch of bros with a bunch of drunken bros and a bunch of women, and like just watch them grabbing each other.
It's a co-ed event.
Yeah, it's like, oh, these are the times where it's gotten like, oh, like this is dangerous, or like, oh, I feel like these women are being. Never felt that way at any others. Never.
Oh man, I have some really special photos I cherish from like my only time I went to the HF festival.
I either have your copies of your photos,
The Vivatar with its like 3.2 megapixels.
my hand in my pants trying to get like
trying to get the fanny
pack out.
Yeah, and there's
Everybody just wet.
some girls that you recognize from school that are like super
yeah.
intoxicated and like just stuff's going on. You're just going like, this is crazy. And meanwhile in the background you're going like, I've never heard They Might Be Giants play this song like this before.
Yeah.
And meanwhile there's just a lot of craziness going on and day drinking in the sun.
Yeah, and
Unshaded.
just getting wild and inviting again when you have big festivals like that. When you have, in my opinion, if you have a music festival and you have so many different types of music and genres and stuff, you are just inviting people, not fans. Because like the diehards aren't going to that stuff really, or the diehards are, but it's a different thing.
Yeah, there's a certain realm of just being like, oh, that's too watered down for me to really appreciate that experience. I'd rather go see them in a smaller venue for the band I actually want to see on the roster.
Yeah. Oh, I can't. I went
50
to
other bands I don't.
I don't think I missed an HF festival for years. I don't think I missed one for a number of years. At least early on, especially when I couldn't drive because it was like a whole event. I had to like make sure. So I got to a point where I could drive and I started skipping them, I guess, weirdly. But when I had to like make plans and stuff, I was in buying tickets, working for those tickets, buying them. So I didn't miss them for a number of years. And a lot of my memories have nothing to do with music. Like, I'm trying to think of, like, what were some of the best performances I saw? I don't remember, but I can tell you all these other insane things that happened during the day.
Yeah.
I can tell you this, that, or the other, but, like, I'm, like, struggling going, like, if I were to think of my favorite bands that played, I'm like, I saw Green Day there, and the only thing I remember is that Trey Cool lit the drums on fire. I couldn't tell you one song they played. That was one of my favorite bands, even then. And I couldn't tell you. I remember being there one year and Weezer was there, right before Green album, when we were thinking Weezer was never coming back. This was post-Pinkerton, pre-Green album era Weezer. And they say that they showed up there. And what are they doing? They're doing a secret concert for, like, only people that were, like, invited out of the audience. And I was like, they're not putting them on the big stage? What? I was so mad. That was the beginning of the end for me for Weezer. Like, them being at an HF festival and performing to, like, a group of people, like, winners, like, in another room at that same venue, and not being on the main stage.
Oh wow, yeah. So like it was just sort of like not a feeling of being like they shouldn't have done that to that good band, but more like they're doing some film fam stuff where they're shortcutting fans who would like to see that.
Yeah, and they were like, because they were in that like weird like, yeah, we're not like we might have broke up, but we're going to do like these off dates, and they like showed it on like the monitors, like on the big screens. They like showed Weezer.
For you special Weezer fans who are only allowed to see Weezer, come to this place now.
You may have check your ticket. You may have won for this VIP Weezer concert.
I got it. So it was like also kind of like probably not like people like paid extra money, but it was like a random
it was a radio thing. But it was still just like they're here.
Be salty about it. I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Yeah, like I said, pre-Green album when they were kind of in a weird like, I think they were playing Green. I think it was like they were playing Hash Pipe, and like maybe like it just happened or whatever. But it was like at this like time, I feel like it was like I got mad at them for like, oh, you guys are like teasing me. You guys are like saying you're breaking up and not going on tour. Maybe you did break up and
shit, dude.
And at that point, you're 2 for 2. You hadn't like done all of the bad things that you haven't done all the things that have made me mad at you for then 20 years. You didn't start all the big dumb cover songs. Rivers Cuomo.
Big dumb cover songs.
Theirs are the biggest dumbest.
You saying that there's like that's why there's a stigma there. It's like there is a thing about doing covers.
No. I would only say big dumb cover songs in the context of Weezer.
Well, I kind of vaguely recall what is it that
they have like the Africa. I hear the rain.
Yeah.
They have a big cover version that's like their highest charting single of all time.
Yeah, I can kind of hear that.
They do like 3 covers records that are just them doing Weezer versions of those like big dumb like 80s songs and things, and it's just laziness for me.
Oh wow.
I will. Here's another place I will.
If you have dropped that in my ears in like 2002, I would have been like, what?
No, this is
But like if you tell me that now, I'm going like, nah, I don't want to listen to that.
No, I don't have. I had my relationship with Weezer is the only one that I have like this where I hate them.
Gosh, I've
never hated.
That's saying something because I feel like you usually maintain like optimism where you're like stand by.
No, they know
loyalty for these classics, and I just heard you just say you.
No, they get on my goddamn nerves with it. So it's like
Cuomo is pretty nuts.
It's this. Look, I've never had this relationship. The closest I come is Billy Corgan sometimes, where I'm just like, why are you such a wiener, man? Sometimes. But it doesn't even reach Rivers Cuomo level. Rivers Cuomo, Weezer level of tomfoolery gets on my goddamn nerves. And I think it's just amplified because of how much I liked him at one point.
Yeah.
It's literally just that relationship that I've never had with any other, where I'm like, you put out an all-timer, a thing that I, like the Blue Album, I will, like, if it's a way, and I genuinely mean this, if there was a way that you could just digitally put that on my headstone, just the Blue Album, I would be fine with that for eternity.
Mm-hmm.
For eternity.
Amen, brother.
Right? I don't feel as passionately about Pinkerton, but I love it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Don't put that one on my headstone, though.
Blue I liked it.
And then, so when do we got Pinkerton? What year is Pinkerton?
Like 96.
Right? So since then, which is now going on a solid 25, 30 years, you have done nothing but the laziest songs, cover albums, rehashing like how many?
There's a big catalog. I feel like when I have in the recent of like, yeah, what? And look at the catalog, you're just going like, I didn't even know about all these albums.
That's what I mean.
There's like an album that was just like, what was the like Gratitude?
Yeah.
You're just going like, what is this at this point here?
Yeah.
What's going on with this band?
Hurley. That's just got the dude
from
Lost or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
Like So here's my issue, though. My issue is this, and I've said this a million times. The worst thing that happened to Rivers Cuomo was that he had a hit with Buddy Holly. That's the worst thing to have happened to Rivers Cuomo and Weezer and my fandom, because it proved to him that he can write a dumb song. People will like his dumb song, and he can just keep going back to that same, like, ironic detachment over and over again, where he can just go like, I wrote a song about I be Buddy Holly. Like, okay. Like, I wrote Pinkerton where I like pour my heart out. How many hits do I get from it? I get zippy hits from Pinkerton.
Salty.
Matter of fact, people are mad at me for Pinkerton.
Yeah, it was almost like he got this rise. The band got this rise off that first album, and then they wrote Pinkerton, which seemed to be a little bit more like they got to like write their stuff.
He put his heart on his sleeve on that and has paid for it ever since.
And,
right?
And it completely, like, it went flat, it seemed like, in
so
reception.
His reaction was to break up the band for a second, to just be like, oh shit, went too far. And then he comes back in, he's like, wait a minute, hold on. If You Want to Destroy My Sweater was a hit, okay. That's not about anything. Buddy Holly was a hit, that's not about anything. Okay. How about Hash Pipe? Not about anything. We'll just keep our distance. And we'll just do a dumb riff. Jun, 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 jun.
Yeah.
And then a couple years later, Beverly Hills.
Oh, yeah. I've tried to forget about that, yeah. You know, there's this one YouTuber that, Pat Finnerty, and he's like, Why This Song Stinks. And I feel like he did something with Weezer, maybe that Beverly Hills song, or
yeah, probably.
And for me, it's like maybe that puts it into my mind where just how like much of almost like a crime, like by this point in this is a songwriter's career,
exactly,
to be producing like this kind of content where you're going like it seems like he's being serious about the process and it's like, here you guys go, and it's just going like it's too serious to be a joke though.
No, I really feel like he literally looked at himself and was like, what do people want? Okay, and he looks at it and he goes, okay, I write only in dreams and people love it, but it's like a cult thing. It's not a hit single. What are the hit singles? And he looks at the success he has with the hit singles, so he just goes like, back to the well. What else did they like? They like the self-titled with the four of us on the cover. We'll go back to that multiple times now. Right? What else did they like? They even wrote a song about how they wanted to write a song that sounds like old Weezer. There's literally a song that's called like Back in the Shack. And it's literally them referring to like playing back. And he even says like something like, I got the lightning bolt strap. Like the strap that was on his Strat, like when we saw him like young.
Yeah.
Like he like even is like directly like here I am writing a song that sounds like an old Weezer song, but the lyrics are about how I'm trying to write an old Weezer song. How meta am I? Right? Layers upon layers of goofiness here. I'll bring out the old guitar and just like give you guys a little tease of the old guitar. But it just like, I really do feel like him having success with dumb songs then made it so he was like, just like, okay, that's the formula, guys. We'll just keep doing this forever. And then like, when he ran out of his own ideas, he just started doing cover songs of big dumb songs. And they've been on that for a million years now.
Yeah, because then you can give like your audience that, you know, likes your sound, like you give them, by doing covers and with your sound, you give them this whole new like almost like fantasy.
And what are the songs they're choosing? They're not choosing like a cool Nick Cave song to cover. They're choosing other big dumb ironic. I'm sure they covered like Don't Stop Believin', or like it's like those like big like dumb like Drunk in a Bar. I'll sing the Toto song. Like the same way that I'll sing Buddy Holly and I'll sing Beverly Hills. Drunk in a Bar. Like it's just like it feels like insidious to me and bad and makes me really angry at them all the time. And they put out something else and I just go, yep, we just have strayed further from the thing that I love with every passing. It feels like Weezer was this little like planet in this thing, and then all of a sudden Buddy Holly happened and we've been on this orbit, and with every pass I just go further out from it. I orbited it for a while and I was able to stay on board and really liked it. And now I'm like orbiting from afar, just going like, send me to another planet. I hope I get stuck in somebody else's gravitational pool that isn't Rivers Cuomo. And I'm glad that I haven't checked out their last albums for the last like 10 years. Because I'm glad that I don't like
sully your vibe.
Yeah, I listened to, God, I remember the Red album.
Yeah, I knew that was one of the ones you said they've done multiple takes where it's just them on the cover. I thought they did like a red one. It's called like the Red album.
Yeah. Well, they just did that. They just started doing like the White album. They have a White album, which is just them on the white. cover, right? The Red album came out, I remember working at Tape Traders, and at that point I wasn't so angry at them that I would still give them the chance of listening to the records. And I remember the Red album had the Pork and Beans single on it. Again, stupid, right? But it sounded like a Weezer song enough. They have the guitars and stuff that I was like, okay, whatever, let's play this album. And there's literally like a song on there called like Heart Songs or something. And it's literally top 10 worst song I've ever heard in my life. And I'm not exaggerating that. There's less songs that make me angry than Heart Songs by Weezer, where it's just Rivers Cuomo referencing his favorite songs growing up while just like doing that like mid-90s Rivers Cuomo sing style thing that he did. I hear that song and I literally like if you had me hooked up to fancy equipment monitoring things and you played that damn Weezer song, everything would spike.
His blood pressure's just gone just all off the chart.
It is so cringy on a level of again, it's because of the ratio. It is literally just because of the ratio of how I feel about some of your work and how I feel about some of your work. And his is like literally like at both ends of my spectrum. No other artist.
Is there any chance that he can get like some sort of exception where like it somehow or another it's like somehow or another it's all like actually like okay though, like as if like he like it's like it seems like it's just too deep just to be like, oh, he's just playing.
He's
just playing around being like silly.
No,
it's like,
there's still,
when you got like dozens of albums that are just like, it really feels like what part of the cringe might be like feeling like this person kind of took that thing where they had like success with a certain sound, and then you could see them maybe trying to reinvent that sound with new albums, and getting away with it for a little while, and then just kind of falling into, like, for me it seemed like obscurity, where it was like they started just getting these albums and I was just not tuned in, and it started to accumulate a big catalog, and then it just like I don't know, like it's like I still just like in my mind like almost just pretend like none of that happened. Like it's almost like after the Green album it was almost just sort of like, oh man, it's like that was it or something.
No, they did this thing. They graduated to this level that few bands do, and maybe very few, in that they're definitely a band that I wish they had broken up. I just wish they had broken up.
It sounds so mean.
Oh, I think that about like
pull that out of context. I really wish they would break up.
Like that. We could have a whole episode based on how I think the band should break up. How I hate the band stay too long, and this happens. How many bands do you know? How many fandoms can you name where there's such a sharp divide? There's tons. There's tons. How much you love that first Strokes record to how much have you listened to them since? Nada.
Oh, they had like two or three
good records, right?
Yeah.
Yep. But
and then after that, you're just going like, I don't know. After that, I just felt like they had a style that was almost like I don't want another version of that.
But they're still headlining festivals and stuff on new material that people like.
Really?
So there's like a fandom divide that is like
Julian
like the
Casablancas.
Metallica thing. Like Metallica, like, oh, I like the early stuff. When they hit Load, I'm out. That same fandom that I always use Metallica because they're like the prime example of like, oh, this is a band that has an early thing and then a later thing, and those fans don't.
Well, with Van Halen, that's kind of pretty good one.
But that one has like a significant difference in a member, so that one sort of makes sense to me.
Oh, yeah, I got you. Yeah,
Metallica just changes. They like kind of just keep the same dudes, and they just like something elevates where the songs are, instead of 7-minute long fast thrash songs, they're 3-minute long trimmed down pop rock songs, right? And like I see fandoms like that a lot where you're just like, yeah, the early stuff. I like the early stuff. I like the early stuff. Yeah, there's a million bands like I'm that way with some of my favorite bands. I'm that way with Peter Gabriel. I like the first 4 records. By the time we get to Sledgehammer, I'm out, which is strange because that's when he hits his peak. But by the time Red Rain and In Your Eyes and Sledgehammer come, I find it less interesting.
In your
And they're great. They're
eyes.
huge. But that's Peter Gabriel's fan base too.
Yeah.
The early dudes and the later dudes. The ones that like the big pop stuff. And then the ones that are just like, oh no, like I really dig like Modern Love. I really like the first 4, the 4 solo records that don't have names. If it's a Peter Gabriel record and it doesn't have an album title, I love it. So his 5th record is called So, and that's the one that has Sledgehammer and it changed. All of a sudden he names the record, he becomes a pop star. The first 4 records are...
Play by the rules, name your album.
The first 4 records are just called Peter Gabriel. They're literally just Peter Gabriel, not even Peter Gabriel 1, they didn't even do the Led Zeppelin thing. Peter Gabriel just named the first 4 records. They have fan nicknames of Melt,
Yeah.
and Car, the one who's got a car.
Yeah.
They have like one-word fan names, but that's not the official title. Like you can't find that anywhere on the record. Right? Because but with this big face, white cover,
Yeah.
S lowercase O, like all of a sudden then the hits. And that album's great, don't get me wrong, it's a great 80s record and stuff, but like that's my like, oh, this is where I jump off. REM is the same way. REM is like there's like the more you learn about the fandoms, you're like, oh, this is one of those fandoms where like people like by the time Shiny Happy People are like, this is trash. What happened to my band?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I can see that, because
Stand? No.
Yeah.
It was Shiny Happy People and Stand that's the divide for REM fans. I disagree. Like,
they're like punk in the beginning.
yeah, they're like a new wavy punk. You listen to especially you listen to the alternate version of Radio Free Europe, like the one that sounds like it was recorded in a hallway. It's like super reverby. Oh, it's awesome, right? Like it's super cool, like some of that stuff. But that's a fan base
That'd be a good cover fun, right? That'd be like kind of fun, right?
I mean, all of those songs.
Radio Free Europe.
I'd like to do Don't Go Back to Rockville.
Yeah.
Because there's also the local connection to it.
Yeah, I think
also...
you've shared that one with me in a way where I was like, yeah, that's probably been on your list.
Yeah, that's
for a while.
good one. But I actually really like the Slacker version of, because I've wanted to do a cover of
It's the End of
It's
the
the End
World.
of the World, because I'm like, well, that's how I feel.
That's to be
That's how
so
I
applicable.
feel.
I mean,
And there's a part where he says trumped,
yeah.
and I've always thought like, yeah. Like, I feel like the end of the world, and that's a good word to throw in there with what's going on with things, even though we're almost slightly dating out of that at this point. I also think of it as it has an apocalyptic memory of mine because it was played by No Doubt. Do you remember the No Doubt cover?
Sort of.
No Doubt covered It's the End of the World as We Know It, and I Feel Fine, Y2K on MTV as
That
the ball dropped.
rings a bell, yeah.
So, like, no joke, I'm, like, in a basement thinking that the world is going to end during Y2K, possibly, with my family. No joke.
I remember Mom and Harry, they were out because Harry, musician, he was out playing a show because it was like, New Year's Eve or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm home alone. And I remember like watching, like probably bouncing between MTV.
Between the channels.
Yeah, and my mom's friend had given me a laptop because I was like, I want a computer, and like she's like, you can have my own laptop. And I'm like, a laptop?
Whoa,
Yeah.
it's better than a computer.
Whoa, and it's like an IBM ThinkPad.
Oh,
and
a
it's like,
ThinkPad with
the little red nipple in the middle.
The clit?
And it didn't have the ability to get on the internet. It didn't have anything to do anything cool. It was just word processing, basically.
It was a literal ThinkPad or whatever, right?
I didn't have enough understanding to do anything like, I hacked it or whatever. Anyway, I remember just thinking like, is this thing gonna like blow up or like what's gonna happen? So I remember having that thing out and on, and I was like, what's gonna happen to the clock when it turns over to midnight? Like, what's the clock on this thing gonna happen? And it just like I remember like the real like lackluster, like it just like went back to like some 1980s date or something. It just something like just really like
you checked that out in real time.
It's just like did nothing happen, and it was like the computer's fine.
I was with my family in the basement, like watching the TV that was downstairs, like with like other I forget all their family friends. I wasn't, and I remember like making the deal, like saying to like my mom or dad or whoever at the time, like, oh, they always do a cover song on MTV, so as soon as the ball drops, I need you to like flip over. And like they flipped over, and it was No Doubt doing that, so I watched that live. But I didn't have a computer there or whatever to check it out, to see. I don't even realize when I would have realized that. But like my family's like listening for like the bombs. It was like on that level.
I just thought like I wanted to know what the computer was going to do, because
my family wasn't even worried about the computer.
I was like, was the computer going to just be like, can't compute?
My family was worried that like the nuke codes were going to get like they were going to launch nukes. That's why we were in like the basement.
Oh man, the over the course of like our culture like evolving through like these like big big things that happen, and like, you know, the things that like plague an adult's mind and make us like stressed and worried, lose sleep, and just like, you know, turn to our vices because of the stresses of like what's going on in the world.
Existential dread.
And then you just like, you look in history going like, oh, that's been happening like, for a long time. Like, oh, well, when they were like my age, and then it was at that year, they were thinking about that, you know, where like now it's like, can I just like deny?
Can I just
things?
worry about that? Like, not at all, because like
it's just
now I realize that I wasted worry with things that weren't worryable.
Yeah, and then like, oh, this is just like an ongoing cycle of things that are just going to be like, there's going to be problems that'll be put into my face, that'll be like, you know, and you're just like, well, when you're a kid, you're just like, well, you don't confront that stuff because you're just like, what responsibility do you have?
Yeah.
You know, it's not like you're paying taxes or all that stuff or voting or anything. So it just seemed like you're just like watching
along for
cartoons.
the ride.
Yeah. You're like, you just think it'll all work out or something. And then, you know, you get like older and you're just going like, they're talking about like toothpaste. I better stock up on toothpaste because they're not going to be, everything's on boats right now, and they can't get the boats unloaded because there's these problems, and all my electronics
stuck.
Yeah,
Look at the boat stuck in the canal again.
I'm like, babe, did you buy enough toothpaste? Because you better stock up. It's just
but
like random.
But hold on, it better not be Colgate because
Procter and Gamble,
because it has a new Brazilian monkeypox outbreak in.
yeah, it's got.
He was like, wait, what?
It's got seed oils in it.
It's wild, but yeah. So it's the end of the world as we know it has also like a weird, like, I actually weirdly visualize it with an end of the world scenario in my brain.
Well, if
I know that sounds crazy.
If we were to like, you know, like I want to do that, it's like I could probably pull something off, but it's like if we were to collaborate on that, how do you think we could like? What do you think? How could that?
I just
song
want to play
be?
the bass.
Bass, okay, yeah. So that would, in my mind, now when we worried about the bass, because I'll be like, oh, Kevin can do the bass part. No. But does the bass, is that like a driver in that for like a sort of like a... Yeah,
because it's a lot of REM stuff.
Good.
A lot of REM stuff, if it wasn't sort of being driven by a guitar riff, or any of the other ones, it really was sort of the bass. It was. I've always said Mike Mills is like the dude. He's like the secret weapon of secret weapons. Every band should hope to have a Mike Mills. The guy that I've always sort of suspected that the relationship of REM is Mike Mills is the dude that's just like, no, we can't do it that way. Play it 2 times, play it 2 times, play it 2 times, and then Mike Stipe sing that over that. Yeah, that'll be cool. Why don't we just do it that way? And then they go out in public and somebody puts a microphone in front of Michael Stipe and he goes, yeah, well, I was thinking where Mike Mills is the dude that did it, right? Is the thing that he's like, this is going to sound so mean against maybe one of my all-time favorite bands now, but it almost gives the impression that Michael Stipe sometimes is the mascot of REM. That Mike Mills is the quarterback. He's the guy he writes a lot of the songs. He has 2 hits. He has a couple hit songs himself. You know that REM had a hit single with that song "I Am Superman." I am Superman. He sang that one. He even has his own.
When did that come out?
It was on Out of Time.
Oh.
They had a couple early on hits. Like they had a lot of early hits. So some of their early hits, I think, get lost to time.
Yeah.
They had videos for that. Texarkana. Not a hit, but another Mike Mills sang song that was like a single. So they had a couple that Michael Stipe even sort of like didn't do. But he a lot of times, because they would just give Michael Stipe the tape of the song. Their songwriting process was the band finished the song and gave him a tape. Michael Stipe would walk around wherever Athens or Seattle. He'll tell the story about writing Man on the Moon. They had Man on the Moon done. It was the last song for that album. They couldn't figure out Man on the Moon. They had it all musically. There was just no melody and there was no vocal. They just had all of the song was done.
So wild.
And they were going to give it to Mark Lanegan. Mark Lanegan tells a story from the Screaming Trees about like REM like not having that, knowing what to do with this song. And he lived in Seattle. Michael Stipe moved to Seattle with Peter Buck, not at the same time, not together, but they both lived in Seattle at the same time because they were friends with Kurt Cobain. And that's why he had a bizarre influence them that isn't talked about as much. You know that the whole reason he does the yeah is to have more yeahs than Kurt Cobain did in Bloom or whatever.
He's got a lot of yeahs, but I want to see if I can get more yeahs.
That's the reason he did the yeah during that. It was literally a direct influence of Kurt Cobain.
It's awesome.
Right? So, like, he moves up there or whatever, and they just give him that tape because he's hanging out with all the Seattle dudes. He just walks around Seattle until he comes with Man on the Moon. He just, like, sings it and he goes, oh, I got something. If you believe, he, like, just came back with that melody. But, like, the song was done. So they were, like, that type of band. And then many times, Mike Mills wrote the song, and it was kind of almost like, it would be like me writing a song, giving you a CD, and being like, here's my version of the song. If you can think of a better lyric or melody, erase mine and put yours over it. And then sometimes Michael Stipe's like, couldn't.
Yeah.
And that's how Texarkana came to be. Was just literally like they gave Stipe that song.
I can't
And he
change
was
this.
like, oh, yours is as good as it's gonna get. yours is good. And Mike Mills is secretly my favorite little detail on It's the End of the World as We Know It and I Feel Fine is his backup vocal at the end that has the super sad lyric. Like, nobody even pays attention to it because you're paying so much attention to the rest of the song. But Mike Mills is in the background singing, time I had some time alone. He's talking about how he's the one that feels the most fine about it. He's saying, time I had some time alone.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
At the end of the song is that
I
backup.
can barely like hear that, so it's like in the background.
It's during the chorus. It's the end of the world, and there's this that's singing at the same time.
Got it.
Which is a classic move of REM, which is sing two melodies, and sometimes they work together, even though they weren't written together. Like Mike Mills and like Michael Stipe were able to quite oftentimes write two melodies for the same song that don't step on each other's toes, and they just made Mike Mills' part the backup vocal. They're like, we'll just have you softer, and you'll become the backup vocal.
That's a lot. That's really interesting. I think that'd be like a lot of fun as another like almost like as like a an experience to take on like a sort of you know, like as if you like creating like a podcast at like an episode where you like try to do like, you know, you take on a concept and you try to your very best to create that. So the idea that you have a song, something simple where you have two different melodies that can lay over top of one another, and there's a good harmony there, and to succeed in that.
The Beatles have a great example of that.
It seems like it wouldn't be that hard. You know, if you like
I do it
had
all the
basic
time.
understanding.
I do it against myself all the time.
It's just like write two different melodies to that same music or something.
Maybe give yourself some time so the other one maybe vanishes slightly in your head.
Yeah, because that could be me. Or you get just two different. You just write two writers. One writes that, one writes that, and then you see if they overlap, and they don't. Then
you ever seen
they tweak them to make them or something.
The Beatles doing what song is it where Paul and John during like the rehearsal footage sing it at the same time, like almost like looking at each other, almost like it's like they're competing, and it's what's the song? I Got a Feeling. You know, I Got a Feeling. Mm-hmm. So you got the Paul part where he's I got a feeling. It's got that, and then you've got the John Lennon. Everybody had a good day. Everybody feel the sunshine. Everybody, and they're singing at the same time, so it says, I got a feeling, everybody do the, like, it's like this thing, and I'm just like, both of those melodies are good.
Yeah,
they're both stuck in my head.
It's like, what do they call it, like a song mashup in a way.
Yeah. That was almost REM's, like approach. It was always like, if Mike Mills came up with something, they would just give it, what are you looking at? The lack of knobs?
No, that your capo, it says Kaiser, and it just like for some reason it was like the font and the color of the thing just made me think like is that like a Mary Kay capo?
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, the pink and the Kaiser does make it look like it's like
is that like a feminine magazine company or something?
Or is that made by who makes like the fancy kitchen stuff? Is that not Farberware? Pampered Chef.
Pampered Chef.
This is Pampered Chef. Do you mail away for this? What was I gonna say about that?
I have to pee so freaking bad. It's starting to like
distract.
Chisel
I
away
have
my
a
ability.
million text messages here I've been ignoring.
I'm just gonna leave it
We
roll.
talked for like 5 years.
I know that. I was gonna say, all right. Before I strip off, I'm just gonna say like this idea of like, well, all right. So like
we came up with 20 good ideas here.
Like this whole like
TV
to me
cover show. TV cover song.
Yeah, like
TV theme song cover band.
Like
or new metal. Try to record a new metal song.
A study and breakdown of new metal or something.
Yeah, new metal song.
Well, so I'm thinking is like we have these discussions, right? It's almost like this sort of formula to creating this sort of content where it's almost like you could have like this would be the thing that you put on YouTube that's free, that's just always going to be like kind of there. But like there could be like, oh well, I turn that off, and then it's like, you know, I'd like to maybe like see if we can do some recording and work on some stuff. But like if that were being captured, that would be some pretty, I mean, interesting content to me. What if that was like packaged in? It's almost like, okay, guys, we'll see you over on the Patreon side, and then like to actually see the footage, seeing us like doing like recording or something. That would be like that's what's on the Patreon account. Exclusively.
I love that.
So if you want to see it,
we have a discussion about what makes new metal. We break down, we chart it out. And then, like, the Patreon is like, if you want to hear this...
see us work that out.
Yeah, if you want to see this in action, check out our Patreon.
And then, like, you could, like, essentially clips
so
from
you can
that.
hear if we got anywhere close to it.
You could put clips from those Patreon things, too, to sort of wet the whistle. Of the...
they did get kind of close. I'd like to hear the rest of that.
Yeah. All right, I want to go drain the main.
I'm going to answer the group chat.
Well, hello.